Go. You have 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, take a look. Democrats are meaner than Republicans. Democrats get 20. No, you're not honest. You're just mean. So I'm going to do one practice, and then we're going to show you video. And the video is actually of a spokesman and what's going on in Israel right now as a way to warm up. So let's react to me. Everyone go to 50. If you totally agree with what I'm saying, you should be where?
50.
100. The woman who called me fat can't get this straight. If you totally disagree, you should be at
0.
If you partially agree, you should be
50.
Good. Okay. So the problem in America, start reacting to me now. The problem in America is Hollywood. The values that they push are not America's values. They're not family values. They're the values of the elite. They're the values of the extreme. They're a bunch of crazy left-wing socialists, and all they're trying to push on us right now is crap. It's about time we string them up and shoot them one after another until they make good films that, by the way, take a look at what happened right there. That's exactly what you want to do. So let's go back to 50. Now this is all about moving the embassy to Jerusalem. This is pretty heavy stuff because you're going to see some heavy stuff today. So everyone at 50, any questions about how the dial works from this side of the room? Any questions from this side of the room? You all set?
Yes.
Let's do it. And I'll get out of your way. When are you going to send your sister instead of you?
How does this change things?
Well, it changes things in two fundamental ways. First of all, it restores the balance of truth to this region. It recognizes one of the most ancient and one of the most obvious truths that there ever was, and that is that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and
React.
the capital of the Jewish people for 3,000 years, the capital of the state for 70 years, and it's high time that the rest of the world recognizes it as well. It also, frankly, advances peace in a very major way, because peace cannot be built on a foundation of lies. Peace has to be built on a foundation of truth, and this is the first time in a very long time where we're saying, where the truth is being said about Jerusalem, about Israel, about this region, and that's precisely why I think it's a wonderful step towards peace.
That is an analysis that I have not quite heard from.
Back to 50. React to every word.
Does them walking away really matter to your government?
Well, sure, it matters. It makes peace a lot harder to attain. But the Palestinian leadership, unfortunately, has walked away a long time ago. They've said no to every single one of our overtures to meet for negotiations. Instead, they're paying hundreds of millions of dollars to terrorists and murderers and the families of terrorists. To give you one example, Hakeem Awad, who murdered almost an entire family, is being paid $2 million over the course of his lifetime. Imagine what $2 million could do if it went to peace instead of to terrorists. So it's not the first time that the Palestinians are saying no to us. We hope they say yes because peace needs dialogue and discussion and compromise. But the Palestinians are saying no to all of that.
But David, if there are events that happen that your government pushed for, which was this move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and now you're saying that because of this move, the Palestinians have done something that makes peace harder to come by. How can you have it both ways?
Well, it's not both ways. They actually said no to peace long before the embassy was moved to Jerusalem.
React.
For years now, and it's been the prime minister. Well, it makes peace easier because the rest of the world can finally say to the Palestinians, it's time to get real, that this is the capital of Israel, that it's not going anywhere, that it will be the capital of Israel. But so long as the world and the Palestinians entertain fantasies that maybe the capital is not in Jerusalem. I ask you, right behind me is the Knesset, the seat of government, and the Supreme Court, and the Prime Minister's office, and the Foreign Ministry, all here in Jerusalem. So it actually, for the very first time in a long time, tells the rest of the world this is exactly where the capital is, and it's time to get real.
I've stood where you are many times, and I appreciate you.
Back to 50.
So far, people have shot guns, they've lobbed rockets, they've placed
IEDs, all in an attempt to storm into Israel and to kill Israeli civilians and to destroy this state. It's a real tragedy what's happening, and the responsibility is completely on Hamas, which is calling for war and very proudly pushing its people towards war and hiding behind civilians as they shoot at Israel.
But all the deaths were on one side. No Israelis were killed. Isn't this a disproportionate response?
Well, how many dead Israelis would make it a proportional response?
React.
I think what's best is that we stop those who attack us. We take every measure to avoid hitting people who aren't involved. But frankly, Hamas makes it very hard when they burn tires and hide behind smoke screens as they try to cut through this fence in order to kill Israeli civilians. So I don't think that you look at the situation and say, well, if one dies on one side, one has to die on the other side. If somebody was breaking into your home to try to kill your family and the police stopped them with use of force, you wouldn't say, well, isn't it a shame that more policemen didn't die in the effort to stop the terrorists? That's not how it works. And that is the situation here.
Are we going to continue to see this? These sort of different...
Okay, back to 50.
David, we saw the opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem today. U.S. President Trump believes this is the first step towards peace. But how can it bring peace to the Palestinians if the Palestinians don't believe that the U.S. can be a fair broker here?
Well, it is a shame that the Palestinians have turned down every Israeli attempt to engage in dialogue and discussion, because that's going to be the foundation of peace. The Palestinian leadership is paying mass murderers hundreds of millions of dollars a year, terrorists and their families, as a reward for killing Israelis. So I think that progress can be made, but not so long as the Palestinian leadership is unwilling to sit down with Israel and negotiate.
React.
We've called literally hundreds of times to meet with President Abbas for real negotiations. Israel has peace with Egypt because Egypt wants peace with Israel, and Israel has peace with Jordan because Jordan wants peace with Israel. Israel doesn't have peace with the Palestinians because the Palestinian leadership doesn't want peace with Israel. It's that simple, and I hope that that changes, because everyone deserves to live in peace in this region.
And they certainly do. We know the U.S. President...
All right, back to 50.
For 20 years, they didn't open the embassy because they were afraid of violence. And now the embassy was open and there was violence. So what do you say to the criticism that's coming from around the world?
I think that President Trump did a very important thing. He not only kept his promise and the promises of successive American presidents, he also recognized a simple reality. You're sitting now in the government office of the Israeli government in Jerusalem. Prime Minister's office is right here in Jerusalem. The Israeli government, the seat of Israel's government, is in Jerusalem, which is its capital. And it's been the capital of the Jewish people only for 3,000 years. And I think that's the key, ultimately, to peace.
Keep reacting.
Because a peace that's based on lies will crash on the rocks of Middle East reality. And it's time to tell the Palestinians, abandon your fantasy of destroying Israel. Abandon the fantasy that you will conquer Jerusalem. Abandon the fantasy that says Israel will disappear. It will not.
But didn't they not do it for 20 years because they didn't want it to preempt?
Back to 50.
2 more.
But didn't they not do it for 20 years because they didn't want it to preempt a peace process, so i.e. the negotiation, where, because Palestine believes that it's a capital too, so it's a dual capital or what have you, so they didn't want to say, well, in case this is a negotiating block, we're taking it off the table.
Well, I think what he took off the table is the fact that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. He didn't define exactly, where the line would be in Jerusalem, but he said it's very clear that this part, where we're sitting now, is whatever is going to remain Israel's capital. He's right.
The Prime Minister's spokesman was just as adamant.
Back to 50.
Last one.
A genocidal terrorist organization that long before any embassy was spoken about, Hamas, was calling to kill every single Jew.
we can't afford to just say, well, that's hyperbole. Maybe they don't mean it. The head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, said, "سنقتلع الحدود وسنقتلع قلوبهم." We will tear down the border and we will tear out their hearts. I take him at his word. I think he's trying to tear down the border because he's trying to destroy Israel.
But tanks against rocks is not a fair fight.
Well, long before any tank was used, we used riot dispersal methods. I'll tell you what makes it so hard to not hit anybody who isn't involved. It's the fact that they're shooting from behind kids. That's why they're burning tires, to put up a smoke screen to make it harder to see who's a civilian and who's an armed combatant. But Hamas has no concern whatsoever for their people. We can be wonderful allies with Palestinians living in Gaza. Why not? People are not the problem, the regime is the problem.
Okay. I just have one question. When you see these visuals like this, what's your reaction? Anger at
Crazy.
Hamas.
Palestine.
I agree with the United States for pushing a move that we should not have made at that point. I feel that we did not provide people who had enough knowledge of the Middle Eastern conflicts and stuff to go in and try to negotiate. The people that went over there, they had no knowledge on that.
Well, the problem is they've been fighting this war for thousands of years. And presidents have constantly been saying, we're going to do something about it. And nothing's been done. There's always war.
But it's unnecessary. You don't need to do it at this point.
War is always, you can argue the necessity of it or not, but it needed to be done.
But with what's going on in Syria and what's going on in Lebanon, what's going on in Yemen, you don't need to stir up the Middle East. I mean, there's no
it stirs
reason.
itself up. It's a constant
There's
raging
no
sea.
reason for it to be in.
You want to talk the reality of Syria. Syria was once a Christian nation until it was conquered by the Muslims.
It could have
That
been
is
done
fact.
more
We support Israel enough, and as far as military aid, we just sent them
Yeah, they're
F-35s.
a country of what,
we don't
8 million
need to
people?
move an embassy to call. I mean, look how much problems.
Look what they've been
it's caused.
going through since they first became a nation again in 1945.
So it's
Look
up
at
to
all of
us
the Arab
here,
nations came against them, tried
but
to
it's
destroy
not up to
them.
the
Millions and
United
millions against a
States to
small
make that
country
choice.
that already went through the genocide.
We
So
don't
let's
live
keep
there.
them going
It
through
was
a genocide.
1948, first of all. I don't think you need to
After
raise your
45.
voice.
Well, I'm not trying to raise my voice. Sometimes I get excited about things I'm passionate
understand.
about.
Okay, we all get excited about things that are passionate, but you're not benefiting anything here by raising your voice, all right? So take it easy. It was 1948, not 1945.
I'm sorry, I
Obviously, it was
misspoke
at the
the
end
year.
of the World
I
War
think it's
II.
something that we should let them resolve themselves.
Yes.
That we stick our nose in other people's business too much.
The previous presidents, they said they want to go make put the embassy in Jerusalem. They promised it, but they didn't push their finger on the button because Trump finally put the finger on the button and says, yeah, well, Jerusalem, Israel, it's like the guy said, 3,000 years, you know? I mean, it's just moving a building over. They still have a place in Palestine. It's just that they're just switching it, they're moving it over 5, maybe 1,000 feet, you know? But the previous presidents made that same promise. They were going to make Israel the capital of Jerusalem. And finally, a president put the finger on. Clinton did it. Obama did it. You know, they all did it.
Official U.S. policy.
You know.
But there's a
In
united.
the 90s, that the U.S. government was going to move the embassy to Jerusalem, and
But they
every
decided
president
not
said,
to because they didn't
"Yeah, well, I
want
promise I do."
austerity.
When you
6 months they've had to
yeah,
sign.
yeah,
saying
I
they
promise
weren't
I'm going to
gonna
move
do
it, and then they never do. He
Because
did.
moving it will cause a loss of life and a horrific
It's
life
not
for
like
people.
nobody's going
and
to
it's
die
not
there if
our
we don't do
country.
it.
We don't
They
live
want
there.
them
He
dead,
did that.
period.
He
It
didn't-
doesn't
you
matter
know
where
what?
our embassy
I
is.
feel like
They
Donald
will
Trump didn't
attack
do it for
them.
that reason. He doesn't like either
you know,
one of those
in
parties.
parts of
He
Israel,
doesn't
they
like
have
them here.
playgrounds
He
at the
doesn't like them
schools
here.
underground
He doesn't
because
like
of
them
Hamas
here.
rocket
He
attacks.
did that to start a
They're constantly
conflict, so
attacking
they
them
can
with the
kill
rockets.
each other.
And you think an embassy?
Donald Trump did
that's the
nothing
only
to
thing
help
that
any
infuriates
The
them?
embassy is a symbol of the United States in the Middle East having a presence. So that the whole idea of let's go ahead and just put up our building. Yes, it is Israel, but in a region that is in a city too that you understand has united nation's peace plan.
What other country is our embassy not in the capital? of that country?
I mean, it's irrelevant.
How many? It is not irrelevant. How many other countries are fighting little civil wars and other wars with their neighbors? Why that? Why not
So
Israel?
why are we involved?
How do you make peace when
Why are we
somebody
involved?
wants to
involved?
kill
How
you?
do we-
You can't make peace with somebody that all they want to do is kill you.
The reality.
And that's what Hamas, they all they want to do is
We
kill
could have been
Israel
more
and
diplomatic.
wipe
We're
Israel
supposed
off
to
the
be
face
working
of the
together.
earth.
Doug.
You cannot make peace with
reality,
somebody
exactly.
who kill you.
The reality.
Our country is falling apart.
God said to stand with Israel.
Oh, my
If
God.
God stand
But hold on.
with Israel, there'd be a problem.
But he
Did God come tell you that? He didn't tell me.
It's in the Bible.
But if you have a Christian president, that's what he's going to do.
The reality.
Oh, really? He's not a Christian.
He's not a Christian.
He's not a Christian. Because a Christian would not call countries shithole countries. He's not a Christian.
Listen, the reality of the
He's
situation.
not a Christian. He's not a Christian. I'm a Christian and I'm offended that you would lock us together.
Listen, the reality of the situation, which a few people have hinted on, the reality of the situation is Hamas wants to destroy Israel.
Yes.
We cannot, as a country, as an ally,
wanted to do that.
to stand by and allow that to happen.
They always want to do that.
It cannot happen.
But here's the
There's nothing
thing.
even been set in stone about what exactly is going through. Israel has not agreed to anything with Trump. It's been discussing on the table, but there is no declaration that anyone can read to see exactly what they're agreeing to.
But
There's none of that.
But Hamas is a terrorist organization.
Right, but see, Trump is
That's
still saying
terrorism.
this is what's going on because he moved it. It's a benefit for him.
Exactly.
He's
Well,
got,
it's a
benefit for
Israel,
him
too.
financially. You're not gonna yell at me. You won't.
In '94, the
US
Congress
policy since
agreed
the
to
90s.
move
It's in
the
writing.
embassy, and
Okay.
nobody's moved
Yes,
it
it
till
is.
now.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
This isn't even about American politics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you were talking over him the entire time. And you were talking over her the entire time. And you didn't listen to anything that he said. And he wasn't listening to anything that was going on over here. If your kids saw this, they would laugh at you. And they would tell you never, ever discipline them again. You did it. All of you did it. You feel good about it?
No.
Then why'd you do it?
We've been reduced to this by the passion that we feel for so many things. I mean, this country is falling apart. We have so much going on against each other, and then we go over here. I feel we could have done this more diplomatically. You just blatantly go, bam, we're doing it, boom, and you stir up a whole bunch of other,
But does that give you all?
No,
I
it
think it's an
doesn't.
intolerance.
It
It's in this country we have, and we've witnessed it for many, many years, an intolerance for alternative views.
Exactly.
And we use words like passion and we feel strong. And really what we're doing is we're closing our minds to an opposing view, an opposing position. And I think that's what needs to change.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
But
Sometimes
we
you
don't
have to
listen.
respect
That doesn't
that.
happen
You have
anymore,
to
though.
respect that with every human being.
And we don't listen to each other
And
anymore.
respect. I mean, literally, you got people who are speaking, and it's certain four who are just yelling over them, and it isn't going anywhere.
They're 10 feet away from you.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, my sister, my half sister, who's my full blood sister, as far as I'm concerned, she's Jewish. She has family in Israel.
She disagrees with you. Does that give you the right to yell at her?
I wasn't intentionally trying to yell. I do have a loud voice.
But you heard nothing of what she said because you talked over her the entire time. Is this what our country has become?
Yes,
Unfortunately.
absolutely.
I think
Yes.
we've been very desensitized to argument to the point of, I mean, you see the 24-hour news cycle is constant round robin talking over each other, and when you have that playing in doctors' offices and playing at grocery stores and playing in your homes all day, you just get desensitized to any argument, and everything seems like an argument, and that's okay now. And a lack of respect is totally acceptable in our society now, and it's really not in my
I don't
country.
understand where we lost that. I can show my point or prove it if I be quiet and listen to you. Because if you're speaking and I'm speaking, neither one of us are getting an understanding. So somebody has to absolutely be quiet to hear what it is so that they can refute it, you know what I'm saying, or agree with it. It doesn't make sense that everyone yells.
You know, you have two ears and one mouth, and we all know what the cliche is. I mean, I think if we
So how are we gonna
exercise
fix
that.
this, Dave? Because you were a perpetrator.
Well, I think it's not an easy question, obviously, but this isn't new, though. That's the other thing. We have to remember the election of 1800 was as dirty as it got. Grover Cleveland, you know, when he was running for president. Joe McCarthy in the 50s was, I think, the forebear, the sort of godfather of the modern conservative movement. Talk first, think later. And that's, so I don't know. I don't know. You got to remember, the Democrats are not in control.
He's offending you by talking about Grover Cleveland?
No, he wasn't talking about Grover Cleveland.
Said
He was
conservatives
talking
talk
about
first
Joe
and
McCarthy.
think later. That ain't true.
Right.
Did he say Grover
Okay.
Cleveland? Because he said Joe McCarthy.
Joe McCarthy. What are you offended about Joe McCarthy?
Because McCarthy's been demonized because he pushed back against communism. And he was wrong the way that he did it, and yet communism is a threat to this country. And to say that he's the beginning of the conservative movement is totally incorrect and ignorant.
Oh, it's ignorant?
It's
That's ignorant.
ignorant of the facts.
What was the fact? Who was the first conservative? I mean, we could go to Edmund Burke, we could go anywhere you want, but I said that McCarthy is the godfather of the modern conservative.
No, he absolutely is not.
Well, who is?
Well, I suppose if you want to look at the guy who started a National Review, called himself the first conservative, or the neoconservatives, you
They
could
were
go
different.
back to Abraham Lincoln, who was one of what we considered one of our first conservatives.
He was a
But-
conservative?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Republican, there's a difference.
Exactly. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah. There used to be not conservative Republicans. Lincoln would be a great example.
But everything changes throughout the years. The people evolve and change, and there's no, even if you were a Democrat like 30 or 40 years ago, the Democratic Party looks so much different today than it was 40 or 50 years ago.
Right.
Same thing with the conservative movement. It would look so different because, you know, if Kennedy was still alive, they would kick him out of the Democratic Party.
So what's the root cause of this? What's going on right now? What's the root cause of this?
People want to win, so you know, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
The political climate is the cause. Political climate and racial tension.
I think people are selfish nowadays. We're one-track minded. We think about ourselves first, and we don't listen to each other. You know, I sat here the whole time and I was quiet because I wanted to hear everybody. I didn't say anything because I wanted to hear everybody's opinion. And we don't do that nowadays. We're one-track minded Americans. We think about ourselves.
What's the root? I got you the first time. What's the root cause?
Trump.
Really?
Yeah, no.
I think Trump is a product of it. Trump got elected because this existed before Trump came along.
Consumerism. What this country is founded on. Me. Look out for me. Like, look at Black Friday. We're stomping over ourselves for what? For something. Come on. I mean, it's consumerist culture of me. That's the problem.
I feel that it started when Barack Obama was running, because when he was running for election, we saw a lot of negative and totally disrespect for our candidates, for him, that we've never seen before. There was even during the debates, there was one senator who wouldn't even call anybody, said, that one. And after that happened with him, when Trump got in, his people were like, we can say we won, and we were like, okay, we're doing it because you did it to us, and we're doing it back. And I think that's where it started.
And she that's what happened to Bush. All the negative things that were said about Bush.
But it wasn't as
And
negative
Condi
and
Rice.
disrespectful.
You gotta be kidding. They put
We had
Bush.
serious disrespect during the Barack Obama run.
China.
Way before.
Yeah, that, but I'm saying the current
you go
era where
back-
people are not
Yeah, but we're
civil.
talking about, we
anymore.
want to know where this
I'm gonna let him
started.
talk.
We could go
Started.
back to the 60s and 70s.
That's right.
Okay, when
We
the
can go
news
back
media
farther than
began to
that.
manipulate all these actions that were going on
farther.
in the communities. Okay, I grew up, I saw like back in the Cleveland area here and across the country when busing first started. I was first-handed, I was a young kid at the time, but my parents were against it, okay? And I couldn't believe that was when I got my first taste of how the media was taking and editing things out of the things that these people were saying because they were disgusted with that whole mess that was going on at the time.
But I didn't mean
And
that part.
yeah, but yeah,
I
this,
wasn't referring
but
to
this
that.
is that was the beginning of
I'm
it was
talking
of this
about
kind of
politics.
stuff. You know, that was politics.
No.
That affected our
But
school
go
system
ahead, and
across
I'll
the
explain to you
country.
what I meant, 'cause
That
you're not
affected all
talking
our
about what I meant.
kids.
Go ahead.
That affected all our kids. That affected me, the kids I grew up in my neighborhoods across the United States.
I agree with
And
you.
here we are. We're all now in our
Look,
40s
why
and
are they- why are we
50s.
here now?
You know,
They
I
can figure out another way to
Right.
manipulate
I
us.
think what it is
That's why we're here.
is
You know,
that's where we began.
everybody has this insanely, everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to have their opinion, their beliefs, their lifestyle, and their choices to be correct. And that's not what a democracy is about, and that's not what we are as 35 people in this room. Everybody has their own opinions. Some people share opinions, beliefs, political positions, but it doesn't mean that you have to embrace it to the point to where you only have a win, and I have to be right at all costs. And that's what I'm hearing.
To be black, like for me, when I express my opinions.
You're black?
Yes. Especially like on social media.
I didn't notice.
Well, when I express my opinions on social media, I get called Uncle Tom, Coon. I love it though. I love it. That means that I won, and I keep it. I get deleted. I get blocked just about every day on Facebook because of my opinion. But when people resort to the name calling like Uncle Tom, I don't get offended. I love it. You know, that just tells me that I'm doing something right. You know, they can't handle debate, so they resort to name calling.
And I think
Right.
I think part of the problem is we're losing track of facts.
Yes.
We're not looking at the facts as they occur. We're more sensitive to opinions and how we might be offended by something. Stereotypes, scapegoats. We're all in this together. It doesn't matter what color
We
you
all want
are
the same thing.
or where you come
Peace and
from.
happiness. That's all we want.
I don't think we all want to
You got a group of people who are out there
The
that are trying
problem-
to
okay. The problem
rewrite
is
the
this.
history books. They've taken Reagan and a lot of what he's done, and they're trying to rewrite what's actually happened in history. All of this actually
Examples?
started.
What do you mean?
You can
Example.
go back to friggin' Woodrow Wilson. Is when all this creeping socialism started.
Socialism?
Okay,
Oh,
yes.
expanded.
It's a
Hold on.
creeping of socialism, and it's been happening since Woodrow Wilson.
What about Teddy Roosevelt? What was he?
He was a
FDR
progressive.
expanded it.
Exactly, so
and
was
it,
Wilson.
and it continues to
Founded the
expand
Communist
today.
Party.
So it's
Exactly.
all about that socialism, and that's what we're fighting. We have a lot of
what
people
socialism?
today. I'm a conservative,
No.
and I want our republic, our
really care what you
representative republic to stand. I don't want socialism. I want the representative
Hold on.
republic we've been given.
Hold on. You said something over here.
I told Dave that's exactly what we don't need, the way his attitude was to
The
reply.
people who voted for a guy who makes fun of disabled people are calling me rude.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, that's not a
Bizarre.
good answer. That's not a good answer.
I-
Let
what are
the
you, my
gentleman
professor?
speak, and then you can have your chance to speak and debate it.
There
The
are no
facts.
rules. There's no rules here, are there? Otherwise, I think someone would have put them in
Well,
place.
there's rules in life.
We got one guy screaming his brain off.
It's
I mean,
just common decency.
I'm shocked that he's a conservative.
It's about respecting each other's opinions.
Well, if somebody else is talking, then you let them finish. You don't have to agree.
So
but
so
we wanna
I
hear.
hold on. So I have a question. I have a question. Normally, I actually do offer rules for these sessions. This is the first time that I decided I'm just going to let you guys do it on your own. And this is a pretty pathetic showing.
Animals.
No, whoa. Do you really believe that?
I've seen some animalistic behavior, yeah. Juvenile, I should say.
Do you want to take back the word animals?
I'll say juvenile.
See, that's what's wrong with it. You got her demonizing half the group.
Did I even say which ones?
No, but yeah, it's just the in general type of thing. Oh, they're animals. Okay. Well,
I don't get offended by that.
I mean, I don't get offended, but
She could have been
that's
talking about me
but that's
or
the
him
that's
that
what
agree with her.
No, I just
I
I mean
didn't
in
say
general
who I
as
was
a
talking
third
about.
party observer. I mean you're talking about your peers as animals. You can't you don't want to decisive.
I've seen
But
some
she-
very offended people. I've seen people's feelings. People's feelings, I think, get hurt so easily anymore that nobody can say anything without feeling like they've offended someone, and everybody feels like they're being offended.
I know.
I think people need to thicken up their skin, including myself. I'm sure everybody in this room could thicken
She-
up a little bit.
She took it back. She took it back, and you're jumping all over her.
He did.
She did.
Probably because
Why?
that's what 45 just called those
Calvin.
people. They're not human. They're
No, he
animals.
called he called MS-13 animals, not all immigrants. He called
I didn't say
MS-13.
you. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Please quote me
Okay.
correctly.
And that's what, liberals offend again.
I said 45 just said
Yeah.
those people. I
And
didn't
they
say
are.
which people.
MS-13.
Now you're saying that I'm saying.
They are animals. They decapitate
See, that's the problem. That's the problem. They're Homo sapien just like you.
But they're animals.
They're Homo sapien just like you.
Okay.
God created them Homo sapien.
Right.
He was replying to a question about MS-13
I
when he
didn't-
made
I
the
didn't say that.
statement.
When I said
That's
them,
what he
he
was
responded
replying
to
to. That's who he was referring to.
No, he responded to what I just said.
I think we should get back to the focus of why we all
Well,
here.
they can't because they all just want to argue with each other. Somebody says something you don't like and you automatically
I think it's
join
perfect.
in.
I think
it's
it's
not
perfect
singing, you're
that we
yelling and
have this
arguing.
group. I like him because he talks in his opinion. I like him, and you. I like all of you all. But I
Yes,
believe
but you're
we need
not
to get
supposed
back
do that
focused on
over
why we're
someone
here.
else. I would like to hear.
But I think it's great to have a
opinion.
mixed
Does anybody know what the question at hand
personality.
is, or are we all just talking to be
I think it's great to have a mixed personality.
So this is the first time I've done this. I've been doing focus groups for 20 years.
Well, it's out of control.
And what's interesting is that you all have about this, most of you have about the same education level. Most of you have about the same income level. Most of you see yourselves as working class or lower middle class or struggling in the middle class. That's what you all have in common. This is the closest economically, education-wise, and socioeconomically of any group that I put together. And you are worse in terms of getting along.
You're in Cleveland.
But that's the point. Ohio is the Midwest. Ohio used to be the place where people would come together, agree to disagree, and you're just nodding your head no. I can't even get through this summary without her disagreeing. Everything about you, you should be on the same side. By a show of hands, how many of you feel that you live paycheck to paycheck, that you struggle at times to get by? Raise your hands if that describes you. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 out of 22. Raise your hands if your family makes more than $100,000 a year. Okay, well, you didn't say that in your...
That's close. It's
No, you-
combined.
But you said household in the
Yeah, in the
thing.
household.
Yeah, well, it's just me and my household, but my family.
Yeah.
In your house, I'm going to
Oh,
ask that
okay,
question
no.
again.
Okay, no.
How many of you in your household make more than $100,000 a year? Well, you guys didn't put that in your thing, so I have every right not to pay you for being here. I'm going to do it this way. How many of you have a household that makes less than $100,000 a year? How many of you feel that you're middle class? Who feels that you're working class? Almost all of you. You agree economically, and yet you've just torn each other apart. What the hell?
I wouldn't say we agree economically. We're at the same economic level.
Yes.
Whether or not we agree on economics.
Right, everybody has different bills and different
Right.
responsibilities.
And religious views with the whole Israel thing, that's a whole separate.
But you guys are tearing each other apart. This is the most
There's
disrespectful
more liberals
group.
and passionate
John,
conservatives.
this is the most disrespectful group that I have hosted since election eve when I did it for 60 Minutes. You are the worst. And yet, you have so much in common and many of the same challenges. Does this mean that you just put 22 people in a room and you guys are going to go at each other? Do I have to actually set up rules for how you can speak, when you can speak, and what you can say?
No, it shouldn't.
Is that as
About
bad?
respecting one another and what they want to
It goes
say.
back, it goes back to the people are intolerable for other people's positions and thoughts. I mean, it's evident. I mean,
This is why you
This
don't-
gentleman was speaking and he just spoke right over him. I think you need some rules.
This is why you don't discuss politics and religion in the workplace, because it gets like this.
Yes, but that's what you're here for.
But we know why we're here. So we should have that respect for each other. So it doesn't
Okay,
matter.
so here's what we're going to do. You're going to grab your dolls again, and I'm going to show you some elected officials, some you'll recognize. And they're going to be talking about some of the issues that you've been talking about. And once again, the more you agree with what's being said, the higher that you go. Everyone go to 50, please. I'm going to get out of this. And we're going to run through about 6 or 7 clips of different people. You all set?
Yep.
Let's do it. By the way, I'm mad at you, but I don't dislike you. Because this is very interesting. And you cannot have another drink unless you speak up. That's the deal. You've heard the phrase coffee's for closers? Beverages are for people who participate in the focus group. Oh, chapter 4, please. You cannot accuse me of instigating. I didn't do anything.
You were someone who came out fairly forcefully against Donald Trump because you did not believe that he stood for your conservative principles. And some of the fears you laid out was that you thought that he would erode the First Amendment of the Constitution. We're now over 100 days in. Has Donald Trump met your fears, been worse than your fears, or has he ended up being better than you would have thought he was?
You know, I think we're at a time where there's rapidly eroding public trust.
React.
Right now, you have hollowed out local institutions and a politicization of most national conversations. And I think most Americans want to have a political fight between right and left, or between Democrats and Republicans, that are about a policy continuum that's here, but that's subordinate to a shared civic understanding of what America's about. And right now, we're not having any of those conversations. And I just wish the president would have a focus on 5 and 10 years out kind of stuff. Are we going to rebuild a lot of the public trust of DC that usually has 9% public approval?
Yeah, I don't think he's thinking till Wednesday.
Everyone at 50, please. You got to go to 50.
I believe the left, and you did not ask for this, but saw in you, oh, this is someone who maybe stands, I know this is not your label, but never-Trumpism was sort of put on you. You were the face of a Republican of principles who was going to stand up to Donald Trump. Yet up to this point, you voted pretty consistently, with one exception on his nominees, on pretty much everything that he supported. How do you balance that?
Yeah, it's a fair question, but frankly, it implies that DC is voting on the things that are most urgent. We're not. This continuum,
React.
right to left about policy, is well subordinate to the really big stuff in American life, and we're not tackling that. We're not having a conversation about the transformation of warfare because of cyber over the next decade, and that's what's coming. When you talk to the generals and when you talk to senior intel community folks, they know that warfare is going to be remade in the next decade. We know that the changing nature of work is going to shrink the duration of jobs. We're not having any conversation about how you migrate our entitlement programs to an era of portability. We're having these fights right here, and the really big stuff is well north of both of these lame political parties.
But you would argue that, or you would.
McDonald's.
Well, what's something you propose that could help us have more trust than we currently have?
Yeah, well, there's not any piece of legislation that's going to rebuild trust. I mean, we need to understand that we live in a weird moment in history. Lots of it is the digital mobile revolution, which is interesting and going to create lots of economic opportunity. But it's also creating a media environment where more and more people can just surround themselves with a silo that's an echo chamber of what they already believe. And we'll talk to each other less and less and less and become more and more sure.
Keep reacting.
2 million listeners or viewers that we watch with are the same people. We need some broader conversations about a whole bunch of stuff that's not chiefly and primarily political, because politics isn't going to comfort people in their old age when they're lonely. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's about restoration of trust in community, and a lot of that has to start locally. And if we pretend federal politics can fix all that, we're lying to ourselves.
Back to 50.
And I would say this to the people of America. We shouldn't just wait on whoever the president is to fix our problem. The 320 million Americans did something really kind for each other every day and just kind of pushed back on all the nastiness. We can move the country fairly quickly in a whole lot of different ways, and there's tons of stuff going on in the local areas. But it is clear to me that we have to get back to being respectful, being civil, to seeing each other and judging each other based on our behavior, not race, not creed, not class, not sexual orientation, not necessarily what country we come from. And we're being too loose with that right now. We have to be more disciplined in our focus on civility, because this is the greatest country that ever was. and it will be the greatest country in coming. And we have what it is to make sure that everybody is fine, but you have to purposefully try to find common ground. It's a mission that we all have to accept
And
together.
that's what you write about in this book. Look forward to reading it. Marilyn Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Back to 50.
This one's the best one.
My country saved me. My country saved me, and I cannot forget it. And I will fight for her as long as I draw breath, so help me God. If you find faults with our country, make it a better one. If you're disappointed with the mistakes of government, join its ranks and work to correct them. Enlist in our armed forces, become a teacher, enter the ministry, run for public office, feed a hungry child, teach an illiterate adult to read, comfort the afflicted, defend the rights of the oppressed. Our country will be the better, and you will be the happier, because nothing brings greater happiness in life than to serve a cause greater than yourself.
And back to 50.
I'm going to fight for my cause every day as your president. I'm going to fight to make sure every American has every reason to thank God as I thank him, that I'm an American, a proud citizen of the greatest country on earth. And with hard work, strong faith, and a little courage, great things are always within our reach. Fight with me. Fight with me. Fight for what's right for our country. Fight for the ideals and heritage of free people. Fight for our children's future. Fight for justice and opportunity for all. Stand up to defend our country from its enemies. Stand up for each other. A beautiful, blessed, bountiful America. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up and fight. Nothing is inevitable here.
History has so changed.
We never give up. We never quit. We never hide from history. We make history.
All right, back to 50.
Now I think we're in a different situation because we have a politics that is damaging the institutional infrastructure that the founders created for us to make decisions. So if I could take another paragraph or two.
Sure.
So I think those people were geniuses. They weren't obviously not perfect, and there have been a lot of people that have come after the founders that have made the country much more democratic than the country the founders created. But they were doing something that had never happened in human history over a geography the size of the original 13 colonies. It was, and in fact, one of the strongest arguments against it was that you couldn't have representative government over an expansive geography. You needed the people to all be in a town so they could show up for the town hall meetings. And these guys developed.
All right, back to 50.
The main problem with what's going on now in the Senate is that we are using that apparatus not to resolve our disputes, but to have disputes. And I think the reason for that is that the equities of fundraising and gerrymandering, the collapse of traditional print media, all of that, and the rise of social media has added up to create a just fundamental dysfunction at the core. And what I want to argue to you, and I'll stop right here, is that Ben Franklin was once asked, during the course of the dependency of the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, he was standing on the stairs, and he was asked, what kind of country government are you creating, Mr. Franklin? a monarchy or a republic? And his answer was, a republic if you can keep it. He didn't say a republic. He said a republic if you can keep it, because he knew and they knew, because they had histories of republics that had failed, that it was going to be up to every generation of Americans to make sure we kept the republic. And I think that's what's at stake now. This is a much bigger question for me than just the dysfunction of the Senate.
Well, let me push on this a little
Sure.
bit, because it seems, from one reading, it's like,
So sometimes I'll tell you what this is about and what I'm looking for, and sometimes you're just gonna tell me what you think without any prompting, and this is one of those. To my surprise, John McCain did better among the Democrats than he did among the Republicans. He's a war hero. What is it that make the Democrats all forget that he's a Republican?
Everything he said.
And what is it about you Republicans that you're so offended?
Everything he did.
By the
What
way,
you
just for the
do
record,
that
you have a
speaks
guy
so
from the
loud
New
I
York
can't hear what
Times
you're
is
saying.
sitting back there, and if you don't use that quote, everything he said and everything he did, one and the other, then you're just not worthy of your newspaper. That was so fucking beautiful.
Don't use that quote.
Okay, so I didn't mean, it's
the
rare that I
truth.
have something so perfect.
It's
So
the
keep going.
truth.
Yeah.
You know, it's what he did. It makes us not hear what he's saying. Okay?
He speaks perfectly, but.
But he never
He's-
backs it up.
It's all
He's a-
cliche.
He's a big government.
Yes.
He spent
Okay?
years in a prison camp, and these people were upset
I'm not upset
at him.
I'm-
I would never
I
have
have
voted for him,
respect for him
but
for
I
what
would
he-
never. I will not bash that man. I will
I
not.
respect his military service. My whole entire family is military. My children are active military right now. Would never put a military person down under any circumstances.
But
But
that
he does
doesn't mean you have
not
to
do
vote
what
for him.
he's, exactly.
Right,
He
I'm
does
not.
do
I
what
didn't
he
vote for him
should.
either.
Okay.
Okay.
I respect
So-
him for what he's done
so-
for this country.
Yes.
He was up there talking about inclusiveness, and you didn't like that because you thought that was,
I liked it.
excuse my language, you thought that was bullshit because he didn't follow through with his actions.
No.
For me personally, I voted for McCain. I want him. I thought this great American hero. But then when you find out some things that he actually did, and now how he's trying to block things that a man that I voted for that I think has good ideas, whether you agree with me or not, that's fine. But a man who has good ideas, and he's constantly trying to stonewall him and give this fake dossier, and he's the one who actually handed it off. To me, it's just like, I love the words he said, but I had to separate my love for the words he said emotionally in my mind with what he's done.
Arizona was the last state to make Martin Luther King a national holiday, so that's why I didn't vote for him. Actually, Trump was the first Republican I voted for.
Ever.
Ever. I was straight liberal, strong Democrat.
Why are you sitting over here? Why are you sitting by me?
But that's why you're over here.
Yes.
You're on the Democratic side,
Right.
and you're deep into the Democratic side.
Yes.
So I have to ask you, and we're not going to use that language. There's some things, that's like the only one that I will let you say anything. I will not let that air. I will do you a favor. Not,
I was letting him know.
but I have come to you, have I not? I've actually done this to bring you in, so you don't need to say that. I have to ask you. African American.
Yes.
The African American community is among the most hostile to him.
Yes.
I appreciate your willingness to be so candid with cameras here to say you voted for Trump. Did you make a mistake?
Now that I did, yes, I regret voting for him. Actually, I'm not going to vote for him in 2020, but I voted for him, to be honest, because he's not politically correct. That's why I voted for him. I liked how he wasn't politically correct. He said and does what he wants. Doesn't care who he pissed off. He doesn't apologize for what he does. That's what made me vote for him. When he gave out Lindsey Graham's personal cell phone number on national TV, I said, that's my guy right there. I said, that's my guy.
Lindsay felt the same way too.
Yeah, yes. But that's how I get called Uncle Tom, and because I'm African American and I voted for Trump.
You voted for Trump too,
Yes.
but you more often than not vote Democrat.
I've voted mostly Democrat my whole life.
What is it about Trump that caused you to vote for him?
One, he was a business savvy guy, and I like the way that he handled his business before he ran presidency,
Right.
and that attracted me to
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Very successful man.
Yeah. And not just successful, I like how he handles money.
Are you sorry about it now?
Am I sorry about it? No, I'm going to give him a chance.
Do you think you'd vote for him again?
It depends on how the first years go. Yeah.
Now, I'm afraid to ask Sheila because she's been trying to get in
I'm being honest.
since the two of you guys engaged in this. I will come to you, but go ahead.
I'm not gonna pick on him or anything. I just wanna, the
Say
statement that
what
one
you
of these gentlemen said, he said the reason why he doesn't like John McCain.
Okay, we're on to Trump now.
Okay, well, this was about Trump. Trump, to me, he embodies totally nothing. And I know he said he's conventional. He speaks his mind. When you are, in my opinion, the president of the United States has to stick to convention because it's not about what he wants or what he thinks. I think he was a terrible businessman. All those people in the casinos, he filed bankruptcy. You have millions of people who didn't get paid. And you have to have, it's not about what I want. If I'm the president, I represent all these people. I am not to the manner born. I was elected. They want me to do what's good for the majority.
Trump didn't file bankruptcy. His companies
I
did.
didn't
That's
say
a-
he did.
Okay,
I'm
that's a
talking about the
difference.
people who he didn't pay, and his companies filed bankruptcy not to pay those people.
But, okay.
His
But in
personal money,
fairness,
no.
he
He
did follow the laws.
He followed the laws of the land.
The laws.
Of the land.
The
He
laws
did nothing
were there
wrong.
for the wealthy.
Okay.
He didn't do anything wrong. He
I
I
went
hope
back
you
to
feel
where
that
he
way
did
when I do
completely
that
right.
to you. I want you to say she
People have
did what she was
businesses that
supposed
fail
to do.
all the time.
Right.
You know, but just because he's president, you're gonna shoot him down for it. Okay, that's what one of the American ways of living is. You live and learn from your mistakes and you improve on those mistakes. You learn from it.
What do you think he learned from the bankruptcies?
Cheating people
Well,
from
that's
lying.
Well, like he said, okay, when you're a business owner and you have a lot of people working for you, you cannot be managing everybody yourself personally. You have people working under you that you hope are gonna do those things right. Just like in any branch of government. You could have somebody up here, but if your staff below you is not doing their job, guess what? Everybody's gonna blame you for it.
Right, so you
know,
put competent
because-
people who know as much or more.
So you do your best to make sure you have a good staff. I know that I'm a small business owner, and I've experienced having people that don't, well then I'm sure you've had people that don't have worked for you, that have not done the job you wanted,
And I
so
get
you
rid
let
of
them
them.
go, right?
Right, and I scrutinize them, and I try to make it so that everybody feels good there. I don't want to hire
Of
you,
course
you,
you
and
do.
you,
But there's
always
but
gonna
only
be-
he's the one
there's
that
always
feels
gonna be
good, and I treat you
cracks.
like
The problem is,
dirt.
would you like it if everybody just pointed at you every time you had a bad employee, and it was like that one
It's
guy
not-
that was making
it's
you
not
look
that
bad?
simplistic.
I
I
mean,
feel like
The only
there's-
thing
Well, no,
is that
I'm just making an example.
here is my
you know.
problem with Trump. I don't care what he did as a business person or anything like that. He could have filed bankruptcy a million times. Don't care. He is a despicable human being.
Amen.
And you are the president of the United States. As the president of the United States, you should be the best of all of us.
Yes.
I mean, you sit there and look at like the John Kennedys, even, this might offend a few people, but Barack Obama spoke in full sentences. Barack Obama didn't assault women.
Jackie.
I don't think the people in this room are fit to tie the president's shoes. He's so successful. He has followed through on almost everything that he ran on.
My thing is, I don't care
Everything that he ran on, but Barack Obama seemed to be anti-American, going and doing everything he could for every Muslim. I am speaking. I did not ever interrupt you.
Yes, you did, but go ahead.
People in America care about, they don't, listen.
I care about Americans, not
Listen.
necessarily everybody else around the world. And America comes first. And I feel that Trump is trying to make America great. That was his slogan. And we have the lowest unemployment rate in 18 years. That should be a huge thing for everybody here. People are getting raises, bonuses, jobs are opening up everywhere.
Me, I just got one yesterday, don't say no.
Carrier
Yes.
said all that job today after he gave him that money.
Hold on. Do you credit Donald? Stop. Do you
Absolutely.
credit? 1 second. Do you credit Donald Trump for your job?
Absolutely. The tax cuts made the company I work for, my boss has more money now to give to us. He gave all of us, there's only 13 of us, or 14. He gave all of us raises because he has more money now. Period.
Before anything else, before he was elected, everyone knew who he was.
Yes.
Everybody knew his character. Everybody knew
I don't think
exactly
they knew
what.
the extent of it.
But still, every president goes through a certain vetting process. Okay, The Apprentice. Okay, he was a reality guy.
Didn't you vote for Obama twice?
I voted for Obama twice, and I voted for Trump.
Good God, what are these people doing on my side?
but listen to what I'm
But
saying.
wait, but is it your side? Aren't we all in this
I don't
together?
know. But listen to what I got. I'm not finished yet. What I'm saying is they saw, to be forewarned is forearmed. They saw who the guy was. He said he wasn't perfect. He laid all his cards on the table. It's like they must have known about him. He's been around since 1970s, you know. But there's other presidents that I'm just talking about history. Jackson was.
We're not going back 150 years.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, with Dave's response right there, why is he sitting on my side? That answers your question of what's wrong with everything that's going on in this country now.
Yeah.
What is so wrong with the fact that this guy saw something in somebody from a different party and decided to vote for him?
Right.
Why does he have to be berate? Oh my God, why are you over here with
All
me?
right.
So what? He saw something different in him than who you voted for.
Okay,
I
so
was just curious why his.
But I mean,
on my
you've
side.
been making these little,
I'm
yeah.
I'm a
What do you mean side?
There's liberal or
Yeah,
conservative. When we
right,
answer, the
exactly.
Democrat,
But
Republican.
see, because a lot of conservatives don't look at us as liberal. We look at us as
I
Americans.
circled on the form
we
something
have
that said
different.
Democrat,
We have different opinions
and
on stuff.
my other option was
but we're all the
Republican, so
same
there's only two
people.
sides.
You put us into
So I picked
groups.
a side.
One side, the next side.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I think as a general rule, there's just like a lack of honor and compromise anymore. Like anybody that gives a little bit to the other side or agrees with somebody that maybe is like weak and isn't an effective, communicator or isn't, somebody who's intelligent. And I think McCain is seen as a real compromiser. And a lot of times that's why I think people don't like him that are conservative, because he's worked across the aisle and things like that, and they don't agree with that. And I think there's just, as we continue to move on in society, it's like nobody can compromise. Well, nothing's ever going to get done.
He hit on with Trump. My grandpa said it perfect. Like, what do we got to lose? And
A
plus,
lot.
I felt safe with Trump because we've known him for 25 years, like on TV. So it's like he's true American.
We knew his opponent for 25 years too.
Right.
Safe now still?
I do.
Is that?
Yeah,
I'm
actually,
he's
life
toned
is
it
going
down.
on.
He's toned it down.
Life
He's
is
become
going
more
on. He's not gonna-
presidential. I think he's got more class.
For you,
All right.
you probably do.
I'm just speaking to what he said about.
I didn't hear it.
It's because you're white.
No,
I grew up with all
said
black
he probably
girls, and that's not
does,
even.
But you're not
All
black.
right, let's let this guy in the suit go. He hasn't
Go ahead.
talked all
Hey,
day.
no, hold on. I missed it.
My thought was when he
Hold
said.
on.
Told him he was the wrong.
I missed it. What happened here?
He feels safe
Can I
because he's
explain
white.
what I meant?
That's what she said.
I asked him, did he feel safe now, the way the situation is? He felt safe when Trump got in. He said, yes, I feel safer. I said, I don't. I said, and because you don't have this type of color, I don't think people spend, a lot of them
I
don't.
grew up in
a
inner
lot
city
of,
Cleveland
But it's
in-
not about being
with all
that,
black
it's
people,
about
so.
wearing this every day and not taking
I
it
hear you.
off.
I definitely
That's
agree
what
with
I'm
you. It
just
is
saying.
not the
And
same
I'm
for
not-
me and you in
right,
this
and I'm
country.
not
I
going at
totally
you.
agree with you on that. I
Right,
totally.
but I was talking too.
Hey, can we let?
I'm
can
just
we
saying
chill
that's
out?
what.
He
that's,
just made a great
wait,
point. That was a great
Can
point.
I finish
Thank
the
you.
point that he called me to say? He just pointed to me and I was explaining. Thank you.
John, that
And
was
I
a very
would be
good.
done.
That was a good point.
That's what I'm saying. That's the difference.
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I just think that everyone in the world has their skeletons in the closet. So like you were saying before, that Donald Trump, we all knew what he was all about. He did get voted in. Just like with Obama, I mean, he was the first black president. I gave him a shot. I mean, I don't care if he's black, white, but, give him a shot. And he was voted in. Let's give this guy a shot. Give him his fair chance. And I feel the same way with Donald Trump. I mean, we all knew that he was a little bit offensive to people, but you know what? He got the job. Give him a shot.
Does it bother you guys that you got Obama people sitting on your side of the room?
I mean, but I would like to, I was wondering,
I voted for Obama twice, but I would not vote the third time. No, there's no way. If he was running again, no. Not 20 after he lit up the White House with a rainbow.
I'd like to know from Sheila, because that disheartens me. And just as a general knowledge, what is it about Trump that makes you feel less safe in America as
Why
a
is he
black
so
woman?
racist? Like,
I don't know why he's racist.
No,
You
why
have
do
to
you
ask
perceive
him.
it that way? Yeah, why do black people hate him?
Because he
Like,
sits
I
up and he
know.
says, all those Mexicans are rapists and murderers.
Every single one.
Okay, and then, yes, he did say that. Yes, he
He said they're
did.
sending
Can
the
I finish
worst
my,
among
I didn't
them.
say that. You're talking about, I'm talking about when he was running.
Yeah, I
Can
know.
I
He
finish
said
my point?
they
And
send
I
the
get this
worst
on my phone
among
every
them.
day.
Some of them
Can I
are
finish?
rapists. Some
You're
of them are
asking
drug
me.
dealers and
You're-
murderers.
They asked me what I feel. Okay, I'm trying to.
The way a black person
No, that's
views
right. How
society
can I
is if
talk
you
when they're
single out
talking? You're
one
talking
group
to
of
me
like
now.
Indians or this or Mexicans, and
That-
you
the way
are
he
going to single
singles
me
out
out too
people,
because I'm black.
when he
That's how
said
they
about
feel,
the
like,
people
right?
from
I mean,
Haiti
One
and all
at a
those other
time.
countries.
So hold
that
on.
were
I mean,
shitty
you're
whole
looking at me
countries.
One
like,
second. You guys, stop. You don't realize that you've spoken more than everyone else here, so you have absolutely had your chance to be
Right,
heard,
but you
and you're
called on
still
me.
pissed off.
No, I'm not.
However,
She's been
you
angry.
guys are talking to each other so you can't even hear what she's saying. So you're all messed up here.
I'm trying to calm him down so he can understand something.
No, but she was speaking. But you have had the floor more than anyone.
Okay, well then
So
I
you've-
won't speak. You called on me before I could finish answering. He jumped down my throat.
I just told him to back
Okay, well,
off,
I'm
did
done.
I not?
I'm done. Go ahead.
You're done.
I'm done for what
Okay,
I
so
was
is
saying
that
just
real?
now.
So is that
No, I
really?
mean,
Is
I'm
this really
finished.
constructive?
I'm finished. Apparently, you guys don't want me to speak right now, so I'll speak later. Let him finish his thoughts.
Okay.
I surrender the floor to him at this time.
No, but actually, I would like to ask Sheila, what is it specifically, and I don't want anybody
Please
to
don't
say
ask
anything.
me.
What
Okay.
is it specifically
I've spoken more
that
than
makes
anyone in
you
here.
feel unsafe as far as Donald Trump's
As a
concerned?
woman, I don't feel safe. As a minority, I don't feel safe.
Why?
I'm not going to go into that because I
Okay,
don't want
all right.
everyone in here jumping down my throat.
We're not, we're gonna listen.
I don't want to.
I am truly interested.
At this time,
No.
I choose to pass because when I
Actually,
start
you
to
can't.
speak,
That's why you're being paid to
Okay,
be here.
I just said it.
Relates black folks.
The
I'm
way
seriously
the
scared.
things he said
She don't
about women,
represent
the things that's
any-
happened, the
nobody.
fact that
Stop! She's talking.
I heard her. She just said something.
Stop it. She was actually going to answer your question. Your question.
And I started that when she said she didn't want to answer.
She was answering it.
After I had already started.
Okay. What is wrong with you?
She had already said.
She
I
was
don't-
answering the question.
She told me I don't want to.
Do not.
Shut up. The way he treated women, the way he makes broad blanket statements about people, because I feel that you can't make a blanket statement about any one group of people. That it's not and when in geometry you have theorems that have proofs. That doesn't work when you're dealing with people. We're human beings. We all feel differently.
Your reaction.
I still didn't hear why you didn't feel safe. I don't understand.
Are you talking
because
physically?
your example
I mean,
you
this
gave
is
was the
living in this
negative
country.
comment he made about.
I mean, a lot of things.
See,
That's why you
she's
should
not.
like Trump, because then if you
I
don't feel safe, you
want to
get a
know
gun.
why.
No, that's not the answer for me.
Excuse me, Miss Sheila. We didn't hear. Like, why
They
do you
heard.
not feel safe?
I just said it.
I didn't. None of that said why you didn't feel safe.
The way he treats women, the blanket statements he makes about large groups of people that are negative.
So specifically, you thought that you were in his beeline.
No, I didn't.
So what is
I'm
it?
a compassionate person, and I feel for others because I'm a Christian, and God, from what I know, you have to be of service to others because Christ came to give His life to be a service for us. I cannot say, oh, I don't like the people that live on His street. All the people in His street are just this or that. And that's what happens. I
But
don't-
there are bad people in the Bible. So if that's where
I'm
you're
not-
coming from
we're
with
not
this,
even
you know what I'm
talking about
saying?
the Bible. No, I'm talking about
No,
what
but I'm
God
saying-
said to me. I'm talking about what Trump said. You asked me why I don't feel safe.
Yes.
Okay,
Like,
I
why?
just told you.
So
Because you're
Trump
a
generalizes
woman?
groups of
Because
people,
it's a
you don't
whole
feel
lot
safe.
of reasons why, and to 6:30 wouldn't even give enough time.
Do you feel safe?
I feel absolutely safe. I think Trump's doing an excellent job with our law enforcement and our military.
What is he doing?
I mean,
I feel safe.
I don't feel safe. What policies is he implementing?
I mean, there's no policies yet, but he just shows them
Well,
that
he's
he
doing a great
appreciates
job.
them. Yeah.
Do you feel safe?
I think I'm safe. I think that we all have to be citizens and we have to obey the laws of the land.
Mhm.
And I think that you have to move in this world according to the laws of the land. And that's police. You need to have respect. Make sure you have license and insurance. And you know what I'm saying? It's how I believe it's how things
Can
are
I
handled.
challenge you?
Huh?
I've had so many black women, moms, sit in front of me and tell me that every time their black sons go out on the street,
Okay.
they are scared to death of the cops. They are scared to death that something bad will
And
happen.
I think it is coming from that we're both ignorant of each other. Meaning,
But how can you feel safe then?
I feel safe. I leave my house. I can walk down the
answer the one
street.
word.
It's about the person and the mentality, and that I really believe in that mentality. And I think that if this white cop is sitting in their car and they see me as a black man driving, I'm not gonna get scared because they follow behind me. Because one, I'm registered. I have a license. I have insurance. I have everything I need to not get shot. I'm gonna make sure that I'm being honest. I have my license. I have insurance, and I'm gonna roll my window down.
And why is there the phrase "driving while black"? Why does that phrase exist in so
It
many
exists.
communities?
It exists because we
Excuses.
Because the color.
It's an excuse.
I believe that we've magnified it. We've magnified it.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
No, I would agree with you on that point, only because we can see the examples in where if it's me driving versus it's her, I would feel like they're gonna want more information. She could say, oops, I didn't know I was lost, and they'd be like, okay.
No.
But then they want to know everything, they want to interrogate. Well, I mean, look, you got people who they find shooting up the schools, they got guns. How come the white kids are never like killed on sight? They always manage to take in violent white people alive. And for some reason, black folks always end up dead.
Frank,
Always.
the term driving while black was from 20 years ago. It was not from Trump.
Right.
No one's saying, no one's
That's
saying.
not what I'm saying. I'm saying
Yeah,
that isn't this a problem in society?
Well, there's one word. Just comply, and if you comply with the police, nothing bad. If you look at how police shootings happen, they didn't comply.
Robin, you're nodding your head no. Tell us why. Who?
There's a
She
phrase
hasn't said
called
anything yet. That's
driving
why you
while
don't know who
black
she
for a
is.
reason. And it's
Say it, start again.
there wouldn't be a phrase, driving while black, if it wasn't an issue. Okay, it is an issue. More blacks get pulled over, more blacks get killed, more blacks get stopped. Oh, yes, they do.
As a percentage.
Percentage-wise, yes, they do.
Because there's more white people than
But
there are blacks.
he's
They're
correct.
13% of the population.
Yeah, and there's like 80% in prison.
Yeah, if you look at the jail stats, the
I
justice
believe
system is.
with African American males, we're dominant, but at the same time, we have to learn how to have that respect for that officer. And if we cover I believe if we cover ourselves, then we're protected. Meaning, if I'm registered with a CCW, I'm not gonna reach for it.
But we have seen too many tapes. We've seen too many examples where an innocent young black youth
Yes.
is gunned down.
Give an example.
Tamir Rice.
Did they run?
He pointed a gun at the police. He pointed a gun at the police officer. Yeah, he painted the orange tip of a BB gun to make it look real. I don't care how many seconds. He pointed a gun at police. I would shoot him too. I was CCW. I would shoot. He shot. He pointed. He didn't have a chance. He painted the orange tip of a BB gun.
One at a
Right
time.
up on him. Why don't you give some space? If you're gonna get in a gunfight, why don't you come right up
One
on him?
at a time.
That's what I don't understand.
You could tell there was a child.
He was like 6 feet. He looked like he was. To be right, like 6. He was like 6'3".
Like I'm looking in your face.
Why are you still, after we've been over this, incapable of doing it one at a time? I do want an answer to that question.
Because some people hog the floor and then people try to jump in.
Or they'll catch something in the middle of a
I mean,
sentence
let
and want
somebody
to
complete their
rebut
thought.
that.
Right.
And then
But
raise your,
sometimes people's thoughts are
I
like
mean, this is
20 minutes long, and
ridiculous.
you're like, come on, guys.
What, do you want to be a moderator or something?
Yeah.
You think you can do better than me?
I would never say that.
He was in custody of his grandparents.
I think the whole thing about the black community feeling unsafe in America is partially, and I'm guesstimating here, attitude, because you don't see, I mean, you only see the bad stuff, and this probably goes across the board with any news. You only see the bad stuff that happens. You don't see the good stuff on a day-to-day basis. They don't put that out in the media and glorify it. They always glorify the worst-case scenario.
Yes. The news.
And then that becomes everybody's reality. It doesn't have to become your reality. You have to take it by the facts of what happened in each case.
But let's be clear, just because, I agree with you, but just because, like, let's say if there is a shooting, I do have police friends, and just because you are trained to do something, you know, you have to actually be in that setting, and it seems like a lot of the police are already afraid of black males anyway. I have never when I was younger, I had a problem with police, like, you know, talking to my mom. But, like, I've never had any trouble with getting pulled over. And, I mean, I've been pulled over and not in the car, and things were just not right. And they're like, have a nice day. Like, I've never had that trouble. But then I have my brother who called, and he was asked to get in the police car with 2 of his friends, drove him all the way to the west side, stripped him down. Ooh. December, he's in his underwear and bare feet, and he's like, we need help. I mean, what do you do?
Because he was black.
It was him and 3 of his friends, and he was actually coming home from like, he was in like a football thing, a PAL league or something.
Because he was black.
That's it. It was the 3 of them, and they were scared to death.
Would that have happened to 4 white football players?
I don't.
Why were they stopped initially?
Right.
They were at the bus stop.
Were they searching
weren't
for other
driving?
people at that time for a crime? Because I've
He
seen
asked
that
him,
happen
he said
too.
he had a Walkman, so you know this was like in '93, and he said him and his friends had basketballs because they came from somewhere else. He played football over there, and they went to basketball. He did miss his bus, so he was out past curfew time. But when the police stopped him, they asked for their names and then told them to get in the car, and then drove him to the west side. They didn't like stand there and say, well, we need you to call your parent, because they were on 93rd and Kinsman. There's a police station right there, 4th District. We live right down 79th and Kinsman, so they could have easily said, we want to, you know, find out.
These streets mean nothing to anybody.
Well, I'm just saying.
I want to go. I'm going to show you some stuff in history. I'm going to show you some stuff in history. So grab your dials again.
Okay.
And then I need to do some definitions when I say things like the American dream. After I show you this, we'll get to you're going to try to define the American dream. You're going to define working class. You're going to define hardworking taxpayer. But first, let's watch this stuff. Everyone go to 50. So these are not politicians from right now. These are politicians from the past. Everyone at 50.
There we go.
I've spoken of the shining city all my political life, but I don't know if I ever quite communicated what I saw when I said it. But in my mind, it was a tall, proud city built on rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace. A city with free ports that hummed with commerce and creativity. And if there had to be city walls, the walls had doors, and the doors were open to anyone with the will and the heart to get here. That's how I saw it and see it still. And how stands the city on
Back to 50.
My fellow citizens, our nation is poised for greatness. We must do what we know is right and do it with all our might. Let history say of us, these were golden years when the American Revolution was reborn, when freedom gained new life and America reached for her best. Our two-party system has served us, I should say, well over the years, but never better than in those times of great challenge, when we came together not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans,
React.
united in a common cause.
Back to 50.
We must think anew and move with a new boldness so every American who seeks work can find work. So the least among us shall have an equal chance to achieve the greatest things, to be heroes who heal our sick, feed the hungry, protect peace among nations, and leave this world a better place. The time has come for a new American emancipation, a great national drive to tear down economic barriers and liberate the spirit of enterprise in the most distressed areas of our country. My friends, together we can do this, and do it we must, so help me God. From new freedom.
Back to 50.
It is the American sound. It is hopeful, big-hearted, idealistic, daring, decent, and fair. That's our heritage.
Keep reacting.
That's our song. We sing it still. For all our problems, our differences, we are together, as of old. We raise our voices to the God who is the author of this most tender music, and may he continue to hold us close as we fill the world with our sound in unity, affection, and love. One people, under God, dedicated to the dream of freedom that he has placed in the human heart, called upon now to pass that dream on to a waiting and a hopeful world. God bless you, and may.
Back to 50.
What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred.
React.
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another. Feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black.
Back to 50.
We've had difficult times in the past, but we will have difficult times in the future. It is not the end of violence. It is not the end of lawlessness, and it's not the end of disorder. But the vast majority of white people and the vast majority of black people in this country want to live together, want to improve the quality of our life,
Keep reacting.
and want justice for all human beings that abide in our land. With and what dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Let us dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and for our people. Thank you very much.
I'm sure the same people are getting it.
All right, back to 50.
Senator, you testified completed the second day now. Is there anything significant that you've learned in this trip?
Well, people are still having a very, very difficult time. There is hunger, considerable hunger in this part of the country. There's no
React.
hope for the future amongst many of these people who were in charge in the coal mines, and now that the coal mines shut down, they have no place to go. There's no hope for the future. There's no industry moving in. The men are trained in government programs, and there's no jobs at the end of the training program because of the cutback. Because of the demands on our federal budget in Washington, the war in Vietnam. Even these training programs are being cut back, and so people are being cut off, and they have no place to turn. And so they're desperate and filled with despair. It seems to me that this country is wealthy as we are. This is an intolerable condition. It reflects on all of us. We can do things all over the rest of the world, but I think we should do something for our people here in our own country.
React.
Back to 50.
So the problem with that one is that the video cuts
This,
out before
I believe very
you finish
deeply.
the reaction. You have to.
Throughout my entire public career, I have followed the personal philosophy that I am a free man and American, a public servant, and a member of my party. In that order, always and only.
React.
For 37 years in the service of our nation, first as a congressman, as a senator, and as vice president, and now as your president. I have put the unity of the people first. I have put it ahead of any divisive partisanship. And in these times, as in times before, it is true that a house divided against itself by the spirit of faction, of party, of region, of religion, of race, is a house that cannot stand.
Back to 50.
So I want to talk to you today today about three places where we began to build the Great Society. In our cities, in our countryside, and in our classrooms. Aristotle said, men come together in cities in order to live. But they remain together in order to live the good life. It is harder and harder to live the good life in American cities today. The catalog of ill is long. There is the decay of the cities and the despoiling of the suburbs.
Keep reacting.
There's not enough housing for our people or transportation for our traffic. Open land is vanishing and old landmarks are violated. Worst of all, expansion is eroding these precious and time-honored values of community with neighbors and communion with nature. The loss of these values breeds loneliness and boredom and indifference. And our society will never be
Back to 50.
A third place to build a great society is in the classrooms of America. There your children's lives will be shaped. Our society will not be great until every young mind is set free to scan the farthest reaches of thought and imagination. In many places, classrooms are overcrowded and curricula are outdated. Most of our qualified teachers are underpaid, and many of our paid teachers are unqualified. So we must give every child a place to sit and a teacher to learn from. Poverty must not be a bar to learning, and learning must offer an escape from poverty. But more classrooms and more teachers are not enough. We must seek an educational system which grows in excellence as it grows in size. And this means better training for our teachers. It means preparing youth to enjoy their hours of leisure as well as their hours of labor. It means exploring new techniques of teaching, to find new ways to stimulate the love of learning and the capacity for creation.
Back to 50.
So will you join in the battle to give every citizen the full equality which God enjoins and the law requires, whatever his belief or race or the color of his skin? Will you join in the battle to give every citizen an escape from the crushing weight of poverty? Will you join in the battle to make it possible for all nations to live in enduring peace as neighbors and not as mortal enemies? Will you join in the battle to build the great society, to prove that our material progress is only the foundation on which we will build a richer life of mind and spirit?
Back to 50.
Now remember to react to the words, not the person. Again, react to the words, not the person.
know we have to face hard truths and take strong steps, but we have not done so. Instead, we have drifted, and that drifting has eroded our resources, fractured our economy, and shaken our confidence. Though our challenges are fearsome, so are our strengths. Americans have ever been a restless, questing, hopeful people. And we must bring to our task today the vision and will of those who came before us. From our revolution, to the Civil War, to the Great Depression, to the Civil Rights Movement, our people have always mustered the determination to construct from these crises the pillars of our history. Thomas Jefferson believed that to preserve the very foundations of our nation, we would need dramatic change from time to time. Well, my fellow Americans, this is our time. Let us embrace it.
Back to 50.
Our democracy must be not only the envy of the world, but the engine of our own renewal. There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
React.
And so today we pledge an end to the era of deadlock and drift, and a new season of American renewal has begun. To renew America, we must be bold. We must do what no generation has had to do before. We must invest more in our own people, in their jobs, and in their future. And at the same time, cut our massive debt. And we must do so in a world in which we must compete for every opportunity. It will not be easy. It will require sacrifice. But it can be done and done fairly. Not choosing sacrifice for its own sake, but for our own sake. We must provide for our nation the way a family provides for its children. Our founders.
Back to 50.
We earn our livelihood in America today in peaceful competition with people all across the earth. Profound and powerful forces are shaking and remaking our world. And the urgent question of our time is whether we can make change our friend and not our enemy.
React.
This new world has already enriched the lives of millions of Americans who are able to compete and win in it. But when most people are working harder for less, when others cannot work at all, when the cost of health care devastates families and threatens to bankrupt our enterprises great and small, when the fear of crime robs law-abiding citizens of their freedom, and when millions of poor children cannot even imagine the lives we are calling them to lead, we have not made change our friend. We know we have to face hard truths and take strong steps.
Back to 50.
We think the country works better with a strong middle class, with real opportunities for poor folks to work their way into it, with a relentless focus on the future, with business and government actually working together to promote growth and broadly shared prosperity. You see, we believe that we're all in this together is a far better philosophy than you're on your own.
Back to 50.
The commitment I seek is not to outworn dues, but to old values that will never wear out. Programs may sometimes become obsolete, but the ideal of fairness always endures. Circumstances may change, but the work of compassion must continue. It is surely correct that we cannot solve problems by throwing money at them.
React.
But it is also correct that we dare not throw out our national problems on negligent and indifferent. The poor may be out of political fashion, but they are not without human needs. The middle class may be angry, but they have not lost the dream that all Americans can advance together. The demand of our people in 1980 is not for smaller government or bigger government, but for better government. Some say that government would...
Back to 50.
Yes, we are all Americans. This is what we do. We reach the moon. We scale the heights. I know it. I've seen it. I've lived it. And we can do it again. There is a new wave of change all around us. And if we set our compass true, we will reach our destination. Not merely victory for our party, but renewal for our nation. And this November, the torch will be passed again to a new generation of Americans. So with Barack Obama, and for you, and for me, our country will be committed to his cause. The work begins anew. The hope rises again, and the dream lives on.
I was there. I was in the front row. I got there really early, and I thought I was going to just stand and just wait it out. And I couldn't. I had to go. And what took me, because I got there early, you don't have to record this, it took me 10 minutes to get to the front early on because people weren't there, but everyone knew what was coming. Everyone knew Kenny was going to come out and speak. And when I tried to do it later in the evening, it took me about 45 minutes. And I don't like crowds of people. I feel very uncomfortable, and it's not that I'm nervous about it, but I don't like it. And there was no way that I was going to be right up front. I mean, I just knew how historic this was. I urge you, normally I do this at the end of the group, but I urge you, go back and see Bobby Kennedy's entire speech at the assassination of Martin Luther King, because in Indianapolis, that was the only city that did not burn that night, because Bobby Kennedy was so good.
Cleveland did not burn because we had a black mayor, truly, honestly.
Look at Kennedy's whole speech. But the one that's even better is Bobby Kennedy's speech from 1964 when he eulogized Jack. And you have to skip the whole beginning because they applaud and 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 they applaud for almost 30 minutes. They could not stop applauding. And they were crying, and you just watch it, and it just breaks your heart, and he has to stand there and wait for them to finish. Because he has to let them get it out of their system too. And imagine, you've lost your brother, it's not even a year later. It's 8 months later, and you have to stand there and wait for them, and you're dying inside. Watch that speech, it's really amazing. Grab your exercises, because I need you to define a few things for me. You can put your dials down. I want you to look at exercise 3 and exercise 4. We'll start with 3. This is how I normally begin the focus groups. I normally start with this and use this. This is rare that I just started, and I will not do that again. So how many picked as one of your top 4, exercise 3? How many of you picked being financially secure and stable as part of the American dream? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 13. Owning a business of your own, number 2. Who picked that as one of your top 4? 1, 2, 3. Enjoying genuine personal individual freedom and liberty. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's going to be your winner. Owning a home that you can call your own. 2, 4, 6. Leaving something better for your children and the generation that follows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Having a job or career that you want and love. 1, 2. Serving your community, neighbors, and other people who need help. 2, 4. By the way, notice that's all on that side of the room. The good life, being able to do and enjoy those things that make life worth living. 1, 2, 3, 4. Achieving the right balance between work, life, and leisure. 2, 4, 5. Also all on that side of the room. The freedom and opportunity to live anywhere and do anything you set your mind to. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Living in and enjoying the benefits of the greatest nation in the world. 1, 2, 3, 4. Living among a people with incredible diversity, inclusivity, and unique cultures. 2, 4. Enjoying a land with beautiful outdoor spaces, national parks, and natural beauty. 1, 2. You come here a foreigner, but with hard work and commitment, you can become an American. 0. And you wonder why we have immigration fights. A fair opportunity to get ahead if you work hard and play by the rules. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The American dream has become an empty promise, number 16. None of you, okay? None of you say the American dream is an empty promise. Then tell me, economically, most of you in this room are challenged. Most of you in this room probably have some financial issues from time to time, and some of you have financial issues every single day. And yet the American dream is alive to you. Why?
I'm originally from a small town before I moved to Cleveland. There just wasn't a lot there. I moved to Cleveland, the jobs are here. As far as the pay, you find something you like and they reward hard work. I work for a biomedical company. I graduated in history from Indiana University, had no training in biomedical, and now I'm making very good money. It's hard work. The American dream's live with hard work.
What does the American dream mean to you?
Well, there's nothing stopping me from producing more in my own life. So if, I can make more money, I just have to make it happen. And I think that's true for everybody.
And that's the American dream. It's all about...
Well, no, it's not all.
Because I've had 2 responses, and they're both about making money. Is that really what the American dream means to you?
No. Making your life. You asked the question.
Yeah.
It's about economic.
Money's resources.
Yeah.
Same,
Without
there's
it,
no
you can't get
difference.
anything.
Right. Without it, you can't get the nice house or the nice cars.
For travel.
In
and-
America.
Nice.
I mean, each individual has the capability in some way, shape, or form to make their
improve.
lives better.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's leftover to make other people's lives better as well.
To me, it's just hope. The American dream is hope. We can make ourselves better, but we can make the world better, we can make the country better, we can make it better for the people that come after us. That's why I couldn't do, what was it, number 16? Because you gave up hope. There's nothing. We can't do anything. We can always do better. Always.
It's all attitude. It's what's in your mind. And with the attitude that you have and how you go forth in life, you make of your life what it is.
But you can do that in France, you can do that in Britain, you can do that in Germany.
Because our economic system, it's a representative republic, it's capitalist, and if you have the attitude to go out and do and create a business, you can be Steve Jobs, okay? And
I was going to say, you asked, why almost everyone in this room is struggling financially, living paycheck to paycheck, yet we still all think the American dream is alive. I think a lot of it is our financial problems for at least me and people that I know are all self-imposed, whether it's so that you could better yourself by taking out student loans, you know, now you're struggling to pay those off, or because you just have to have a new iPhone, or the new Apple Watch, or you gotta have a brand new car, or this house isn't good enough, so I gotta buy that house, and I gotta do this. So we put these things on ourselves. We know that we can still make it, we can get out of this thing, we can keep working, we can still achieve better things, but I think a lot of it's self-imposed with a lot of people.
Well, for me, the American dream, honestly, is living in a place where me and my family feel free. My hope is in my children and being able to provide a life that I wasn't able to get growing up. And to give them that and to have them, not necessarily monetary, but have dad there to be able to spend that time. Yes, provide for my family, but at the same token, own our small home that we have and to provide for my children and raise them to productive people. That's my American dream.
I think for me, it's like we all have a dream, but it's all different dreams, but it's the same dream of being free. You know, in some countries you can't be free, you know. But yet, when all else fails, we all help each other. Even though we disagree a lot in this room, we still come together as a group of people who met on a Sunday afternoon, and we're all discussing how we love America. Even though it's it's different spectrums of the same rainbow, but we're still part of the same thing. Like it's that shiny hill on this, the shiny city on this, that shiny spot on this the hill. You know, it's the same dream, and it's the same thing.
You all agree with that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The only reason I didn't pick 16 is because I only had 4 options. The American dream is, I mean, a lot of people in this world have a ceiling that you're you know, financially, socioeconomical, whatever, you have a ceiling, you know, and the American dream's kept around to keep the rat running on the treadmill. That's what it is.
Like I said,
That's the reason the lottery exists. That's the reason every state has multiple lotteries.
Wait,
you know, to keep the rat running on the treadmill.
Right.
I was just gonna say I believe in the American dream because I'm a product of it. My dad grew up in the projects with nothing, with a single mom, and she worked at a shoe store to put him through Catholic school, and now he's the CEO of a company. And I mean, I see it, so I believe in it because just like the stock market, your perception is, you know, the reality. The stock market does well because you believe in it, and the American dream does well because I believe I can do it. And you know, I think our country is unique in that way.
It is rare, though, to be grow up in poverty and become a CEO. That's very rare.
It's rare,
but
it's
it's possible.
doable, and I can
right.
tell you it is.
Right, and I agree
can
with
show
you.
it to you. So.
Most people grow up in
But it's not
poverty
for
and grow up a
everybody,
little less impoverished.
Right.
You know, but that's
sick
not
for
the
you.
American dream. You know, I'm a little less poor than my parents.
And that's still good. Less poor, great.
Right.
Yeah.
Still eating.
You have the opportunity. You have the opportunity to go to school. You have the opportunity to work harder, to take, work 2 or 3 jobs, and put your money in the stock market. Grow.
I've seen people living off the grid, and they're happier than heck.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have any money. They live off the land. I see, like I was watching this TV show about people living in Alaska. They don't have anything, but they're the happiest people in the world because they know what they want to do.
Right.
You know, because like I said, everyone's got their own dream.
That's
you
the
know?
good thing about
Success is fulfilling your purpose.
Yeah, in life.
And what God created you to do. Like, you're a newscaster. I work on homes, and I run crews of guys that really don't know what they're doing. I tell them, hey, you do this, you do that, and I kind of see their gift. You know, and everybody has their own purpose in life, and if you are doing your purpose, then you're successful. You know, that's what I think.
Are you all free?
I think the American dream in large part is a mindset.
Yes.
A mindset of what individually we have to achieve and the accomplishments that each and every one of us has made in this room or will to be determined. And again, I think it's that American spirit that we can go at each other and be known as the worst group ever. but we still have a common denominator, and that is we share the American spirit, some more so than others. But it's the spirit. But again, I think that's the common denominator, and that's what we see here in this country, where we don't see in other parts of the world.
Right.
Do any of you feel not free?
I wouldn't say not free.
I feel oppressed.
I feel limited.
You feel oppressed?
Yeah. Because if you run a stop sign, if you do one mistake
Yes.
driving, the cops are
Yes.
everywhere. It's a prison state. There's 33 prisons in Ohio,
Oh.
second most in the nation. Yeah, I mean, you can disagree if you want. but
Yes.
that's how I feel.
Absolutely,
You know?
that's a lot
I
of
don't think
people
we live
my
in a
age.
prison
Right,
state.
you
A
feel
lot
it
of
too.
people my age feel.
Right.
They honestly feel that way because, like you
You
said.
get out of line, you get whacked.
Yes.
You- There's no.
It used to be that way.
Right.
Example,
Yeah, I agree.
I
In
used
the
to live
80s
in
we were more
Indiana.
free.
I got
Yeah,
pulled over
exactly.
all the time for seatbelt violations.
Right.
Yeah.
Little stuff.
Why?
Phone. I mean.
Seatbelt violations.
So put your phone down
Yeah,
and put your
that's
seatbelt
Right,
on.
I mean, but still, when does it stop? Now we got cameras on every corner watching everything.
yeah.
Like we're
And you
going
know
into
what?
Orwellian
You deserve it.
nightmare in 1984. Like
In fact,
that's
when
not
this
freedom.
focus group is over, I'm calling the cops and turning you in. And you too.
Whatever happens with informed consent.
I have no
So long
idea.
as you know the risks and responsibilities you choose to do as an adult, you should be able to.
I want to say
Okay.
something about the American.
That's informed consent. I never want a seatbelt, ever.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay? That's just me. I
Okay,
know
well,
what the
you're
risks
tuned
are.
in.
I
I'm
know what the
tuning you- I'm turning you all in.
responsibilities are. Okay? So, but I never wear a
Rebels in the
seatbelt.
1700s.
It's just like every year
Have
there's
them
more
chase
laws,
me down
you know?
77 on the way home.
Every year, more and more.
This man is a fighter for freedom.
Every president, there's a new bill to pay.
People should wear their seatbelt because it's going to protect you, not because the government tells you you have to.
It's common sense.
There's a difference to
Right,
some
but it
people.
shouldn't be punishable from
Right.
money.
Why should there be
Yeah,
a
there
law?
They
Right.
take the little you have.
Okay, we're not
Well-
having a conversation about seatbelts. By the way, I need to do this because in this room it's a little bit different. I want you, and you may want to come and listen to this because this is part of. So you got a New York Times reporter here. So your first name and what your occupation is.
My name is Danielle, and I'm a bartender.
My name is Mary, and I'm in customer communications and marketing.
My name is Bill. I'm self-employed.
Doing what?
Recycling environmental.
Cynthia, I'm self-employed.
Doing what?
We have a web-based business where we make products for global export.
Bongs.
No, that'd probably be profitable.
If you had said bongs, I wouldn't have stopped laughing.
What product?
We make remedies for arthritis, yes, health
Oh, I
products.
thought you meant the other stuff.
CBDA.
Yes.
And the last time you got stoned was when? The last time you did pot was?
70s.
Jackie,
I'm Jackie. I'm an RN.
registered
and,
nurse.
Yes, registered nurse.
I'm Amanda. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I used to be a music teacher.
John, general remodeling contractor.
Mark, I do collision repair, auto body cars.
My name's Ken, and I'm a retired machinist, 40 years.
My name is Joshua, and I am a buildings and ground administrator for one church, and I also accepted a position as an associate pastor and worship leader for another one.
Mark, I'm a regional sales rep.
For what type of products?
Appliance parts.
Cool. I mean, this is America right here. Go ahead.
Derek Mays, tax preparer, assistant manager. I'm also self-employed with Anego franchise.
What one?
Anego cleaning, janitorial cleaning.
Cool.
My name is Brian Gogarty. I'm a volunteer recruitment person from work from home for City Mission. It's the homeless shelter here in Cleveland.
My name is Monique. I'm a freelance makeup artist.
Dave, nonprofit sector.
Damon, I do mental health screens, and I'm a teacher.
You need to work on this. Here.
Oh my God.
Everybody except me.
I'm Doug. I do collections and repossession.
Say it again.
I'm Doug. I do collections and repossession.
Okay, I'll tell you where John's car is because he hasn't paid.
I'm Calvin. I work in the biotech medical field.
Sheila, owner operator, cleaning service.
I'm Greg. I work in customer service.
Robin, refired, that's where you get fired from your last job and you're not sure if you're just gonna retire, refired.
Jeremy, I'm a warehouse supervisor.
Cool. Let's do the next one. So exercise 4. And then we're going to go to chapter 2. Exercise 4, page 4. You're giving me your top 3. How many of you chose number 1 as one of your top 3? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 2 is one of your top 3. 2, 4, 5. Number 3. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. Number 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Number 5, 2, 4, 5, 6. Number 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 9, 1, 2, 3. Number 10, 1, 2, 3. And number 11, 2, 3, 4. There's one winner here, and I'll read you the statement. There's only one item that was chosen by a majority of you. The simple truth is that we have a rigged system in America. The people in power don't serve we, the people. All they truly care about is protecting their own positions and profits. Why do you believe that? Because that's really strong. Yes?
I have seen it firsthand talking to local politicians. I have had meetings with them on certain issues, and they'll sit there and agree with you, and then you find out they go and vote on it, and they vote completely against what you were talking to them about.
It also seems like, on the grander scale, politicians can do almost anything and nothing ever happens to them. And then the average person, like you said, could get pulled over for having a seatbelt violation, and, you know, anything, you can go to prison for the most minor thing. They could kill people and nothing happens.
Whose wages are still going up constantly, no matter how bad the economy's doing? It's their wages, not ours.
Yeah, it's, why would you spend $4 million to get a $125,000 a year job if you ain't stealing something? Okay? And that's why they're there. They're just stealing it.
I think there's no accountability for politicians, and there's no consequence. Half of America doesn't even vote.
I think being a politician should be treated like a job. I think to be, everybody here at their job gets a yearly review. I think every year when we vote, I think that's how they get their pay raises. They get a job review, you know, and if your local politician, whoever his name is, isn't doing the job, he gets voted out that year. They don't get to vote themselves pay raises and stuff like that.
Senators and congressmen, they go in poor and leave rich.
And they should have term limits. Term limits,
yeah.
Not be allowed to be voted in again.
How many of you support term limits?
Big time.
So we have the first thing that we all agree on. The system is rigged and we need term limits.
Yeah.
Why do you feel this way?
Me?
Oh, yeah?
If you watch the news, it's a 24 news hour cycle of corruption everywhere.
You think they're all corrupt?
Not all, but the majority of them are greedy and self-serving, yes. I don't think they're out for the people, but for themselves.
Are the politicians out for you or for them? Why them?
It's how I've always felt. I don't know. I mean, it's just it just seems obvious.
I don't think so. Why do you see it's obvious?
They're the ones, I mean, they look out to fatten their pockets for, you know, I mean, destroying America just to put pipelines, I mean, it's all about greed, money.
Destroying America.
Mhm.
It's a very strong word.
Environment.
And you blame the politicians for destroying the environment.
Mhm.
What's going on? The system is rigged is an attack on the political system in this country, which arguably is part of what makes America America. Your group right here has indicted the system that the rest of the world envies. Dave, what's going on?
I don't agree with the statements. I certainly didn't choose that one. I think it's easy for us to land-based politicians, too easy. I think we do it too easily. I mean, it's thousands of elected officials in this country, and most of them do a good job. Those who do, we have a guy here in Cleveland who's now just been indicted and everything. So they do, yes, exactly. But they do get caught. And I do believe that it was Bobby Kennedy who said politics is an honorable profession. And I think that he meant it. I think that there are still thousands running for office in this country who believe that. And I just think it's too easy. We like to blame others for what's going on in America.
Trump, when he was running for president, was saying he was going to drain the swamp. But when he got in office, he did exactly the total opposite when he got in office, hiring Ben Carson who doesn't have a clue of what he's doing for the Department of Housing, and the Secretary of Education, Bessie DeVos. Like, he did exactly the exact opposite of what he was gonna do before he got in office.
Rex
so.
Tillerson.
Yeah.
You think the system's rigged?
It's not rigged, it's
For
just, yeah, I would say it's rigged, because that's the reason why he hired them, is because they made major donations to his campaign.
I agree with the campaign part, because a great majority of our politicians are owned by businesses who give them money.
Yep.
And they'll make you promises, but these people are giving more money than you. And
Yep.
when it comes down to the votes, they have to go with the people who are paying them.
I think the whole, like, from the ground up, I don't know that we can even fix it. And I know it's funny because I just said, oh, hope is all that matters. No, the electoral system's broken. The electoral college needs to go away.
Oh,
Yes.
start with that.
And the thing is, like, look at the last election. I'm not trying to open a can of worms. A lot of people voted one way because they didn't like the other candidate. That is literally the worst reason you could vote for someone ever, is just because you don't like the other person. There is the lesser of two evils. If you got two trash people running against each other,
Don't vote.
well, not voting is kind of the same as voting for one over the other. Like, it's just, you're making the number smaller.
It's tribalism. It's tribalism at its greatest, because you have people who say, oh, this is my team, I'm going to vote Republican, or I'm going to vote Democrat. It's tribalism. That's all it is. It's they want their team to win, and they blindly follow.
Divide us to conquer us.
You really believe that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
They're the
Oh,
only ones
yes.
winning. They're
Right.
the only ones winning.
So
Millionaires.
I want to do this.
1%.
I'm going to ask
political
you, I'm
parties.
going to give you a name,
What do you like?
and I'm going to give you a name. So the only difference between me and them is I won't let you all do this. And I want you to give me a word or phrase that comes to mind. So you guys are ready? I know you've done this before. I'm going to go all the way across the front row, and all the way across the second row, all the way across the third row, and then across the back row. I want a word or phrase to describe the typical politician.
Crook. Typical?
Okay, I'm going to do this again
Yes,
so we
sir.
can do it quickly. Everybody come up with a word so it looks great on television. I'm going to give you a name of a profession, and I want you to give me the word or phrase that comes to mind immediately. Don't think about it. What comes to mind immediately? Politician.
Dishonest.
Well-meaning.
Two-faced.
Peer pressure.
Diabolical.
Self-righteous.
White.
Dishonest.
Two-faced.
Cynical. Deceitful.
Deceived.
Corrupt.
Corrupt, that was what I was gonna say.
Out of touch.
Criminal.
Thinking they're to the manor born.
Corrupt.
Self-serving.
Traitor.
Corrupt.
Bought.
Traitor? Traitor.
Yeah.
They're just like you.
No, they're not.
They
Not
come-
even close.
They come from you. Traitor.
Yeah. I think if your job is to serve the people and you're not serving the people, traitors.
I personally think the problem with our government, the entire system, from simple as a council person all the way up to presidential, is that there's too much corporate money and lobbyist money that goes into all these elections. It completely phases out the ability for any average person to run for
Run, it's
office.
so expensive to
You
run,
can't
yeah.
afford it.
Yep.
So that eliminates the average guy
Yeah.
being able to ever have a shot at that.
But if you listen to the word, I mean, this is awful. This is democracy, and you are condemning all of you,
They're
almost all
not
of
for
you.
the people like they say they
They're
are.
really not even from the people. They have to be
Fake.
wealthy.
But they started from the people.
It's been
But see, the only
compromised.
problem
But
If
then
they
got-
didn't need our votes, they wouldn't even talk to us.
And then they got
They're for like the people seriously. because the
started
Supreme Court
from you. They
the Supreme
started
Court
The
in
made
your
Kennedy
corporations
schools.
people
not
like that
all of
are
them.
not from
They're not
us.
from
They're
us.
Majority
too
of them
wealthy.
did not start.
They have good intentions, and then once they start to realize that they can get their pockets lined, that's when, okay, the lobbyists, the big pharma start to come in, and that's when you start to see this kratom ban come in.
The only problem is
Right.
that's the reason most of them took the job.
Yes.
That's the reason they didn't get elected to serve the
They
people.
ran
They
to
got-
make money.
Yeah.
Your city council here.
That ain't a new thing. That didn't just happen.
But then something happens over time, and if not, then they get taken away. I mean, someone else
I mean, Washington just
gets
because
voted in.
they may come out of, you know, these smaller part cities they get to Washington and they realize that there's just so much corruption and such a cesspool.
I think
And
they become
I think they've
smaller,
It gets worse the higher they
They
get.
just got less money when they were smaller.
So how long does this take?
It don't take
Years?
long, but when there's
Months?
It takes years.
Weeks?
Probably within the first year of getting there.
So
They get
within
in the
1
swamp,
year,
they get
you get
infected.
elected, and then you end up,
Yeah, because all you have to, if you're a representative, in 2 years, you gotta get reelected. So you don't have time to do anything. You have to work on your next campaign within a year. You're already starting a
so
campaign
if you're
for
a
the year first.
challenger, you're okay. The moment you get elected, you're evil. That's what you're saying here.
No, I'm saying they become
That is
corrupted.
what you're saying.
No,
transformed.
No, they become
It's a
corrupted by the system.
Washington's a transformative town. It's like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, good old Jimmy Stewart. I love that movie. But eventually, down the road, if you stay too long, you get detached from your own, you know.
How many of you believe that a majority of politicians get corrupted within the first few years of service? Raise your hands. Well, I guess we have something else in common now. So how are we going to change it? How do we change it? Any of you?
You have to term limits and elect new officials.
Taking some of that money that the money that companies bring, putting limits on that. You can only put so much into a person because the money, yeah.
Right.
Super PACs and all that.
If we were to make an example out of a couple who are extremely corrupt, the others would fall in line.
Oh, we tried that
But
with
you've
Warren.
got to make an example.
Okay, tell us. Give me 2 examples of politicians who are, in your words, extremely corrupt.
Dodd-Frank. That bill was written to corrupt our banking system, and it has.
That
The
re-
banks fell after that bill.
That legislation
And
was
those two
written
need to go to
stop
jail,
the
frankly.
banks from controlling it.
Yeah.
Chris Dodd and Barney Frank wrote that legislation
Yeah.
to punish the banks, not to
Well-
collect money. And by the way, for the record, the banks all opposed that legislation and spent millions of dollars trying to kill it.
They were forced to sign it.
Ken, your information is wrong.
Well, it's what I understand and it's what I see. I think if that bill wasn't there, I think the banking system, we wouldn't be boiling down to 4 large banks in this country. And you wouldn't have banks then feeling that they have the power to say, oh, I don't like your business, so we're not going to do with your business because you manufacture guns. We're not going to deal with you, okay? Forcing businesses who may be in an unpopular business at the time, to seek refuge someplace else. If Dodd-Frank hadn't come in, we would still have a lot of the small community banks and a lot of the other institutions to be able to
Do
deal
you
with.
realize that the banking industry spent tens of millions of dollars
Yeah.
to kill the
Well,
legislation?
I know they did.
So my
Okay.
question is, how could you be so uninformed?
Well,
Because clearly you watch.
maybe my opinion's colored by the 2 individuals who made the bill. Okay, I don't trust a word that comes out of either
They
one of them.
hated banks, Ken.
Okay, well, okay.
You think they wrote it to protect the banks?
No, I think they wrote it to destroy the banks, to be honest.
Yes.
Okay, destroy. We don't need the banks destroyed. We need the banking system strong. We don't need it
Charging
destroyed.
Overdrafts to people in the amount of thousands of dollars to punishment.
Wells Fargo's,
Oh,
Wells Fargo.
terrible. Opening those accounts, I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah, they do need to be punished.
Yeah,
Ripping everybody
interest
off.
rates.
Okay, grab your dolls, please. We're going to chapter 2.
A year and a half ago, we posted some questions, starting with this one. What is the American dream? So many of you remembered it as a parent with a job, a modest house, maybe a family vacation.
React.
And the kind of education that would give the children even more opportunity in life. I remember that dream too. My parents grew up on farms in southern Kentucky. This was the house where we lived until I was 4. They rented it when my mom was a school teacher, my dad in the Navy. So thanks to the GI Bill, they got a house in a subdivision, a family street with picnics and 4th of July parades. But so many of you also wrote us about the stress and the struggle of trying to reach that dream today.
I'm actually having to work 3 jobs, and my husband works 3 jobs.
Back to 50. Also skip 2.6 and 2.7.
But so many of you also wrote us about the stress and the struggle of trying to reach that dream today.
I'm actually having to work 3 jobs, and my husband works 3 jobs as well, and we're still not able to get ahead.
Back when I was a kid, my father worked, my mother stayed home. My father's income was enough for us to survive.
When I was growing up, it was achievable to white picket fence, being able to own your own home. I feel like we can never catch up.
You gotta get the millionaires and the billionaires in Washington to
Keep
start
reacting.
worrying about the working class people. Because
You think they don't know, don't care?
I think they forgot.
2 facts. Over the past 30 years, the U.S. economy has
Do you think every time a newspaper editorial comes out and denounces Trump, and every time a former cabinet secretary in a Bush administration comes out and denounces Trump, you think that has a, you think it backfires? You think it oddly reinforces Trump's message? I think a lot of people who have seen their livelihood vaporize, who are no longer part of the middle class, who are struggling to survive, pay no attention anymore to what the media or the people in power. They've lost all credibility, I think, with a lot of people. I mean,
all day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and
That's
what
his
to
words.
buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them.
React.
They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on. The fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day.
Keep reacting.
Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
React to her words, not who this is.
I just saw some statistics that the vast majority of taxes paid, charitable contributions in Wall Street, in New York City, comes from that demonized 1%.
It's not the demonized 1%. Let's just be real clear. The game is rigged.
React.
And it's rigged in favor of those who have money and who have power. Watch what happens in Wall Street. If you can hire an army of lobbyists and an army of lawyers, then you'll get what you need out of Washington. Washington will make sure that the rules work for you.
But can't you fix that until you can fix campaign finance reform?
Well, that is a big part of it.
Your campaign cost $40 million.
That's right, and you know what it took to make that happen? Because I think it was really important. It was lots of folks making $50 donations. You know, about 80% of our money came from people who made donations of $50 or less. God bless every one of them.
I know when you were
Yep.
campaigning, when you meet a little girl, you would bend down and say, let's.
Okay, I'm curious. Let me get to my little, they call this a rabbit hole, and I'm not allowed to speak unless I'm in my rabbit hole. That was the most divisive clip I've showed yet. Those of you who are Republican absolutely hated it. Those of you who are Democrats absolutely loved it. Will we ever have an end to polarization? Will we ever have? You're all shaking. I didn't even finish the question. You're shaking. No.
That's why.
Why no?
That's why. We didn't wait for the question to even be finished before we were like, nope, absolutely not. That's why we'll never have an end to polarization, because nobody wants to listen.
Everybody's different, though.
We were told we were equal by slave owners. Think about that for a minute. In the Constitution was written by slave owners, am I correct?
Yes,
And
but I
he
have
said that
no
every
idea what
man
that
was
means.
created equal. So,
No, I was listening to her and I dialed down when she said that most of the contributions to her campaign were
$50
or less.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
And she got $40
Do you know
million
that?
and $50
Can I
donation.
make a
Give me
statement
break.
on that? Because I know a lot of people don't believe that, but being a part of certain groups that are into politics, I know, like, I have donated to the Chicken Arizona and different places because they ask us, can you donate 5, 10, 15? And a lot of people are doing that are in these groups. So a lot of their money does come from people, just individuals.
True, but not most
Not
of it.
$40 million.
Why
I
can,
don't know. Oh, she didn't say over what time.
why can we not end
Well,
the
it could be
polarization
3,
in
4
this
years.
country?
Because that's what our country is based on. Two-party system.
We're always
But it was never like this.
I don't
It was
think
worse.
that's true.
You think what happened in this room an hour ago is typical of?
I think people were shooting muskets at each other at some point, yeah. I
So,
do.
during the Civil
Media and
Yeah.
War,
politicians feed that.
we're always in a state of revolution. Everyone's revolting. It's all we're evolving, we're changing, but we're always going to be this way, you know.
Some things are like a pimple. When you have a pimple, you have to put that alcohol on it, and it has to get big and burst before it goes away. And we have to address these things in a form that everybody listens. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm using an analogy. I'm using
That
an
is
analogy.
actually the most disgusting analogy I've ever heard for
I'm glad it
America.
was, so maybe somebody will listen.
Why can we not end the polarization?
Politicians and the media feed on it. That's where the media makes their money. It's the division. They create the division.
So I'm
and
gonna make
the
a-
polarization.
I'm gonna
Because
give
we
it.
live in a post.
I think it's a good analogy, because this is ugly when we fight, and pimples are ugly when they burst.
So I'm going to say something that may bother you, but I think it's your fault. And in sitting here, in my case, standing here, I think the American people are the cause of it. I think you all are the cause of it. I watched it here. I watched an unwillingness to hear points of view you disagreed with. I watched the shouting. I watched the disregard and the disrespect. And I'd say we the people are the problem, not the politicians. They're feeding off of you.
I think it's an
They're following you.
I think the issue, the polarization, Frank, that you speak of is an unwillingness. It's an all or nothing. It's an all or nothing with most Americans. Either you agree with them or you disagree. There's no common ground anymore. You know, you might be a Democrat, but you might lean to a conservative position or conservative policy, and then you're chastised for that.
Yeah, I do think that I agree with him also, but there's too many people not working on themselves or doing what they could do better and looking at what the other person has across the street and saying, why can't we be all the same? Everybody can't be rich. Those people got rich off of somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So do your time.
No,
Yes.
not in all the cases.
Yes, ma'am.
You
So
work
do your
hard.
Yes, but you can still start here. The fry guy at McDonald's and then get one. Somebody still had to work off your back. It's riding coattails. There's nothing bad about it, but you can't be the person standing here saying, why don't I have that kind of money? Why don't I live there? You know what I'm saying? What are you doing to get to that goal?
Right.
Well, I think one of our big problems in society today is that how far we've come as a country and how advanced we are. You gotta think even the poorest of the poor in America are still some of the richest in the world compared to other countries. And so now we have nothing else but to bicker about these little things that are to us are big deals. Like for me, a huge thing is freedom of religion. And you know, and there's other people like, oh no, that's wrong, or I'm pro-life. And pro-choice people, oh, you want to oppose women? Like no, I don't hate you because you disagree with me, but it turns into that.
Yes, but you were yelling at a couple.
I
people
wasn't mean.
over here.
I was not
Yelling
mean
at
to. My voice got loud. I admit I got a little impassioned, but I wasn't trying to yell. And I apologize and I apologize that it came out that way. I was not trying to yell and be mean.
Do you want to apologize to him? You're looking up at the sky.
I'm sorry?
As I'm looking at you. Do you want to apologize to him for what you said? He
If I
apologized
said
to
something
you.
to offend you, I apologize. It was only meant in good spirit that we're sharing ideas. And are you meaning you?
No.
Oh, well, you, okay. I apologize if I said something to offend you.
Sorry.
So we had this yelling in other sessions. This is the first time that anyone ever said, I'm sorry.
I made a mistake. I can own up to it.
So we're not the worst group now?
Frank, we're not finished yet.
How do we address the polarization? How do we address the anger? How do we address the rancor? Or is this here to stay?
Yeah, I think it's here to stay. It's been here to a certain degree, but it is getting worse. I mean, you have certainly hypocrisy involved when you talk. This woman just mentioned the Kennedys. They didn't come from us. They were so wealthy, yet she voted for a billionaire. So I don't know that there is any way to end it. So yeah. So.
I think it's always been polarized. It's just that the method of amplification is so much greater in this day and age that everybody's side is so amplified when
Because
they didn't
of
have
social media.
because of social media and the way that the 24-hour news cycle is operated. So it's just more.
I think as a whole, people have to respect each other's opinions, and you don't have to just because someone doesn't agree with what your thoughts are. I think you have to live with that and say, hey, you know what? That's the way you feel. Well, this is the way I feel, and it's always going to be there.
But it feels different now. I've been working at this for more than 25 years, and in my lifetime, we asked this question of the American people: are we more divided and polarized than at any time in your lifetime? 82% said yes. The vast majority of every generation. So I'm hoping that this can be solved.
When did you notice it?
In 2000 is when I first saw it, when Bush and Gore
Yeah, that was a very
tied,
nasty.
and the subsequent 5 weeks, I'd never seen anything like it, and I don't think we've ever come back from
I
it.
agree.
Are tied to their party more than to their beliefs sometimes. And I'm an independent technically, but, and that for me means that I'm open-minded to both sides' arguments, conservative and liberal, and I have some feelings on both sides of the aisle depending upon if it's a social or if it's an economic or philosophical viewpoint. So, but the more you're trying to, play to your own party's lines and all that, then that basically just divides us because we're not listening to each other's ideas.
So you're saying that independents are open-minded?
I'm open-minded.
But Republicans and Democrats are not?
No, I'm saying that sometimes.
Are you open-minded?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so,
Do you vote Republican?
mostly.
But then you're tied to a party.
Well, I voted for Ross Perot. So,
I'm technically
Usually
a
I-
registered Democrat, but I voted for the last 3 Republican presidents. Just
By the way, usually I try to get people to acknowledge they did drugs. I never let people say they voted for Perot on television because it can be so awful. Any solutions? Any direction?
I don't necessarily want it to end. I mean, I'm a Democrat. I believe in the party's values. I believe in equality. I believe in equality of opportunity. I believe that racism is wrong. I believe that this president is a disgrace.
What do you think? I believe that.
Do you want me to answer that? Charlottesville, I would think would be a good example.
Oh my God,
Another
no.
example would. I mean, I'll never in my life get over the fact that this guy was elected president. I mean, somehow, and yet 3 million votes less, and was literally making fun of a disabled person. I mean, literally. I mean, I'll never understand that.
Why are you making faces?
How is that fake news? He literally did it on camera.
I'm not. You're gonna yell. I'm not gonna raise my voice. But
I'm
gonna
sorry.
say
I
this.
apologize for yelling.
I'm letting you know. When
you have to
he
let
actually
people
did the
stay
same
where they
movement for
are.
Ted Cruz. They actually did a study of it. He did the same motion when he was making fun of Ted Cruz. Like and plus the guy's disability, he can't even move his arms. It was all based on hearsay. It was
Splitting
ridiculous.
hairs at saw this point. him do that.
No, he went like this. He did the same motion for Ted Cruz. He was making fun of Cruz.
Raise your voice. Okay, cool.
I'm not trying to raise my voice. I don't think he was.
I don't feel like he was raising
his
his
voice.
Can I say something? No, this is factual. This is factual about, I'm going to say about the current president. This is what I saw. The current president, for a long time, they loved him. On all media circuits, they loved him. He was one of them. And he was in the NAACP. They even gave him an award in the 1980s. They gave him all this stuff. And it's not about that. It's about the media spinning what they want to spin. It's the media it's like a Big Brother. 1984, they're pushing.
He says this. These are his words. It's on video.
I understand,
what
but they
he
keep
has said
repeating
about
it
his
over.
opponents.
But they keep repeating it over and over and,
And what's
over
wrong
again.
with that? They're his
You're
words.
You're just programming another person. It's like another demographic. But he's also said good stuff too. They always push the negative, not the positive stuff.
Do you think it's appropriate for a president to, on national television, criticize a member of Congress for having a low IQ?
No.
Is that appropriate?
But they know
I
of
want a
him.
show of hands
But-
from everyone in this room. Who thinks that's appropriate? Raise your hands.
As a president?
As a president. Not one person in this room.
But they,
I want you to raise your hands if you think calling Hillary Clinton crooked is appropriate.
That's different.
Oh, that's different. That's okay.
That's slanderous.
Why is that different?
Because it's true.
How do you know it's true?
Because she was
How do you
running
know?
for
But she deleted 33,000 emails. That's crooked.
Because bare
That's
minimum,
There was
crooked.
nothing wrong with that.
because bare
She
minimum,
breaking
she was
laws.
involved in some. I mean, even if it wasn't criminal, I mean, you could argue at least it was a little shady business.
You voted for Trump, didn't you?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Ask them when they, ask them.
Dave, calm down.
But I don't know if I would vote for him in 2020 because, like you said, some of the stuff he does, you're like, come on, just stay focused on do your job, you know. And
These are people with your income. These are people with occupations that are similar to yours. And they switched from voting Democrat to voting for Trump. Clearly you're agitated. Why?
Well, I mean, talking about the media. I mean, I'm surprised there isn't a story today talking about Hillary Clinton's emails. It was over and over. If what she did was wrong, why didn't the FBI open a full-throated investigation?
Why?
They're Democrats also.
Go ahead. No, why do I what?
You don't want to.
Why are you agitated that these people voted for Trump?
Oh, we keep. I thought I was put on this side of the room for a reason. I don't know why they're.
Why?
I'm disappointed because I think that they bought into what the media was telling us about Hillary for 25 years. This woman was pilloried, minus the pun, pilloried for a quarter of a century because she kept her maiden name for the way she dressed, the way she talked, the way she looked, her age, so on and so forth.
Hillary Clinton lost the election because she was a bad candidate.
That's exactly
She
right.
should not have been running.
Right.
She was not the right person for that.
See, I thought she
Bernie
But,
Sanders would have beat Trump easily.
but,
Yes, Sanders
Would I be able to ask everybody a question?
What happened to Bernie Sanders?
Nobody was.
I have a question for
But no,
everybody.
hold on. I worked the election. What do you mean? I worked the election in Ohio. There was no Russian collusion
Wow.
in Ohio.
Can you
I
ask
worked
another
the
question,
polls.
please?
No,
This is going nowhere quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Okay, everyone grab your dials.
Down to 45, say that you didn't program.
Everyone grab your dials.
Please, thank you.
Have you guys heard about Mike Rowe? Who knows who Mike Rowe is? Well, you're going to react to some language from him. Everyone go to 50, please.
I need a cigarette.
I wish I had that on camera. I need a cigarette. Everyone at 50.
Or the Breakfast Club.
When you were here last time, you said, the country needs a good PR campaign on work. Simply that there's a lack of appreciation of it, perhaps lack of, particularly on physical labor. That's something your foundation, you said you wanted to do with your foundation, but is it something that this president should do?
Absolutely, positively, unreservedly, yeah. Every president needs to do that. In your earlier segments, you were talking about leadership from the top, and that's it. Look, there was a great moment when the president was in the room with some heads of manufacturing a couple of months ago, and he said that we're going to bring these jobs back, which always sounds great. Nobody's got any truck with that. But a couple of the CEOs were like, Mr. President, we got the jobs. They're here. What we need are people who are enthused about learning the skills that are actually in demand.
React.
So, yeah, my foundation was formed Labor Day 2008. We're celebrating our 9th anniversary this year, and the message hasn't changed a bit. The skills gap has gotten wider, but you very kindly described me earlier as a champion of blue-collar work. What I really am is an addict. I'm a dependent on it. I'm addicted to smooth roads and indoor plumbing and reliable heating and air conditioning, and 300 million other people are too.
Buddy, it's time for you to get to Houston. Get the tech.
Back to 50.
You touched on this in your introduction. And one of the things I think that got lost in the campaign is the difference between automation and globalization. Everybody's accusing globalization of the thing that lost our jobs. But when I was at Time, I remember we did a story on a factory in upstate New York. It had 5,000 people making batteries, and now it had 20 people making even more than it was before. That's not about, that people do lose their jobs because of automation, not globalization.
That's what, yeah, I wouldn't deny it, but I would also say at the same time, the thing that always gets left out of the conversation is the fact that there are 5.8 million jobs that are available right now. We have got a lot of people out of work and many more out of the workforce specifically, but 5.8 million jobs in the skills gap has to tell us something on a deeper, broader level about opportunity. Our enthusiasm for work, our desire to find a job that may not be our wish fulfillment, but jump into it with both hands and see where it takes us.
I think what you showed a certain way was that there's dignity that these people feel toward their jobs. Job is much more than just how you pay your bills and what you're doing for your family and what kid can go to college. It's what you feel when you go to work every day.
Yeah.
And somehow I think that's what Mr. Trump was able to tell the story to.
And just skip 3.3, go to 3.4.
What do you?
And so the message was about how do we take talent and not just find people a job, because that's the starting point, but we need to do even better than that. How do we help them find a career, an opportunity for the long term? And so I'm really excited about what's going on here today, and I'm proud to say we're launching this nationally, about bringing people together.
Keep reacting.
So what we're going to do is we're going to link multiple websites, multiple places, and have it say, go wherever works for you if it'll solve the problem. So we launched a great portal called mitalent.org that we will link with Center for America, and we will make all the ties possible. But we're going to have great tools to help too. And a couple tools I want to mention to you. And it's huge on a macro scale, but more important is the individual level. For that person and their family, that's where it really makes a difference. So we've added some tools that I think will help people too. We created a career matchmaking tool where people can go on and say, here are the skills I have, and here are the positions I'm interested in. And it'll tell them what skills they need. And not only what skills they need, but where to go find those skills. How to find the answer there. We also created something called a career investment calculator. So people can literally go on and say, this is what I'm doing today, this is what I'm interested in, or the 2 or 3 choices I'm interested in. And look at how much it costs to get an education in that field, what the lifetime earnings can be, and what kind of return you can get in terms of going into that field. Because if you think about it today, how many people really don't have good information about knowing where they should head? We're going to make that connection. And I'm proud to say we will partner with a...
Let's finish off. I'm going to finish all the dials because then we're going to collect them. My colleague needs to go back to Washington, D.C. So let's go to chapter 5. You guys turn your dials to 50. Skip 5.2. React to what he says, not to who he is. This one is really important.
That's a warning.
That's never good.
Yes.
That's never good.
Some of you can do it, and some of you, I don't think you can. I've been here for...
Doing things for this country that should have been done.
Start over.
For many, many
Go back.
years. We've had this
We can't miss the
abuse
beginning
by
of this stuff.
many other countries.
Go back.
Everybody go back to 50, please.
We're doing things for this country that should have been done for many, many years. We've had this abuse by many other countries and groups of countries that were put together in order to take advantage of the United States. And we
React.
don't want that to happen. We're not going to let that happen. It's probably one of the reasons I was elected, maybe one of the main reasons.
React.
But we're not going to let that happen. We have right now an $800 billion trade deficit with the world. So think of that. So let's say we have 500 to 375, but let's say we have 500 with China, but we have 800 total with the world. That would mean that China is more than half. So we're going to get it taken care of. And frankly, it's going to make us a much stronger, much richer nation. The word is reciprocal. That's the word I want.
That's it. No more Trump. You can all calm down.
So let's look at steel in particular. When you raise tariffs on steel, 320 million American consumers lose. Because everybody who went to the store last night and buying something for their kids or for their household that they need, there were metal products in it. And when you have tariffs, you raise prices on steel, and all 320 million American consumers lose. But at the level of production, even before you get to retaliation, and let's be clear, if the president goes through with this, it will kill American jobs. There will be retaliation, and specific American families and producers and workers are going to lose. But even before you get to retaliation, if you just look at steel, this plan will kill steel jobs in America. Why? How could that be? It sounds like you'd be doing this because you're trying to help steel workers. There are 140,000 production steel mill workers in America. There are more than 5 million factory workers in America that work at factories that use steel as a primary input. When you raise the price of steel, those factory workers are going to lose jobs. There are going to be some of those 140,000 steel production workers that will benefit. There'll be lots more of the 5 million steel workers that use them as inputs that are going to suffer. We need to start telling the American people the truth about what's happening in big factory jobs. And the analog is agriculture. In 1900, more than 40% of Americans worked on farms. 100 years later, less than 2%, and yet we produce more stuff. That's what's happening in industrial factory jobs right now. We have rapidly declining numbers of people working in industrial jobs, but we have more total output. We need to start telling the truth about technology.
It's very clear to all of us listening how much you love your state and how much you're against.
Back to 50.
Right.
Our infrastructure drives the health, well-being, economy, and prosperity of the nation. We depend upon it to move people and goods, to get to our jobs, to protect our homes from floods and disasters, and to provide our families with clean water. For too long, we have not prioritized the needs of these infrastructure systems. Funding has not kept pace with our infrastructure needs, and burdensome federal regulations have slowed efforts to spend the money efficiently. The time has come to make a significant investment in our roads, bridges, ports, and water systems.
React.
The administration's plan proposes to spend hundreds of billions of dollars of federal money to generate well over $1 trillion of infrastructure impact. Part of this can be accomplished by cutting Washington's red tape. President Trump's plan prioritizes streamlining. This will allow needed projects to start quicker and finish faster for lower costs. As states, counties, and towns wait to obtain permits from Washington, costs for projects rise and time is wasted. Shouldn't take a decade to permit a project that takes only months to build. We need to speed up project delivery. The president's plan calls it.
That's your second agreement. Infrastructure.
React to the words, not to
The people's voice will be heard. Government will help those who truly need it, and it will allow everyone to rise. So to those that are left behind by economic forces out of your control, we hear you.
React.
To those who are attacked for your beliefs, we hear you. To a nation that sees chaos spreading across America and across that globe, we hear you. And for our men and women in uniform, we hear you.
Back to 50.
Last one.
Now we have listened, and you have told us enough. Enough of feeling like your government is ignoring you. Enough of Washington bailouts and handouts. Enough of feeling less safe and less secure in a more dangerous world where the bad guys are winning and the good guys are losing. Now, Republicans believe that families who work hard should get ahead. Republicans believe in an America that isn't divided by race, religion, or gender. Republicans believe that America only works if we put your interest above the special interest.
How many of you know who that is?
Yeah,
Raise your hands if you know who he is. Okay, so just with your hand, just keep your hands up. I'm just curious. Give me a word or phrase to describe him.
Future House Speaker.
Yeah, next speaker.
Next speaker.
Next speaker, man.
Gross.
Shot.
Shot?
Wasn't he shot?
No.
Oh, the other guy was.
That was Scalise. Yeah, it was
My
Scalise.
apologies.
Well, I'm not going to accept it. So here's my question for you. Oh, actually, everyone, pass your dolls to the center. And if you guys, we're going to collect it for her so she can remove the equipment.
She has to split.
Right.
I'll be right back.
And actually, everyone should just stand up and stretch for a second.
Yeah.
No. No.
No more dials?
I used to have my other under.
Taking it literally, huh?
Is there anything else you need from up here? You got everything?
Thank you.
Okay. So the same thing, which is if you can send me a transcript, then I'll indicate, and we're going to take the one we had before, just cut that back and add more here. And I'm going to add one or two from Mnuchin.
Okay, I got it. I'll get it to you early Tuesday.
Okay. Okay, grab your seats.
Yeah, otherwise I would be gone in a minute.
Okay. Ready? Be honest. I mean, be brutally honest. How many of you have stopped talking to someone or have a problem in your family because of politics, that there's a friend who you disagree with or a family member you disagree with, and you're not really talking to them much anymore? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And it's equally divided. What does that say about our country and our situation right now, that you're actually not unfriending someone on Facebook, you're actually changing your life?
Well, my situation happened almost 35, 40 years ago. You know, it's a brother that we just don't talk anymore.
Over
Okay?
politics?
Yeah, more over politics, but it's other stuff too, but it's
But
politics.
it's just politics.
I know it is, you know. I would just as soon talk to him and work it out, but he won't talk.
Well, maybe after this is done, you should call him.
Well, yeah.
In fact, you know what we should do?
Call him on air?
Yes. What's his phone number?
I don't have his phone number.
You don't have his phone number.
Don't have his phone number.
He's your brother,
He's my brother.
and you couldn't reach him right now.
Well, the only way I could reach him right now, he is on my Facebook account, okay? But I don't have his phone number. I can't call him and talk to him.
What does it say about our country when you don't talk to your own brother, when you've lost friends? In the survey that we did, 1 out of 4 Americans actually said that they stopped talking to someone.
I stopped talking to somebody because I felt they just went off the deep end after Trump got elected, where everything that any Republican or conservative person did was inherently evil, and they just kind of, it was just horrible. So I didn't want to really be around her because she would immediately demonize anything that I believed in,
Can you
even if
give
it
me
was
her number?
reasonable. Right. No, but I mean, really, to the point of just idiocy. To like, I couldn't even talk to you. You know? So it's
Mine's kind of the opposite. I have somebody who stopped talking to me because I didn't, and it wasn't, I never actively like brought anything up with them. Because I'm definitely of the, if you believe what you believe and I believe what I believe, if we can get along about other stuff, why bother? And they kept pressuring me. They kept going, I just don't understand why you don't understand. And I said, I don't have to understand because it's what I believe and it's what you believe, and they cut me out. They stopped talking to me.
I have a friend, we almost stopped talking because we would see each other, we're neighbors, but then we became friends on Facebook, and we're different races, and I would see things and she would see things. And it almost got to that point, but I decided I gotta take the higher ground because I know she's a good person just from, you know, and we discuss things now. And you know what I'm saying? And we say how we feel to each other because a lot of things that she thinks that we want, we don't want, and what I think she want, you understand? So we discussed it, and we're finding common ground. It's not the same friendship, but, you know, we're finding a way.
I understand that people are passionate about their political opinions and beliefs. I just think you're taking it entirely too seriously if you've been friends with somebody for 20 years and because a certain person was elected or something like that, you're like, I want to have nothing to do with you because you voted for so-and-so or you agree with so-and-so. You are taking your political beliefs entirely too seriously if you're going to not be friends with somebody or no, you know, his example, not talk to your own brother for 30 years because of a political disagreement. You know, me and my brother fight like cats and dogs about everything, but I still call him every week, or he still calls me every week, sometimes just to fight. But, I mean...
Maybe you need to see someone on that. How does it work for you, knowing that the African-American population is so hostile to Trump?
I don't think we are. I think that most men and women just want to be heard and respected, and I think there's a lot of barriers that need to be broken down. There's a lot of barriers.
I've seen the polling data, and they hate him.
Chicago hates him.
No.
There's a lot of men that hate him.
No, they hate him.
The population, the black
hate him.
population hates Trump.
I think the fact that
Kanye stood up for him and got destroyed on
Right.
Twitter.
And so is one of the pastors here. What is his name? Pastor Scott.
What does that say?
And, well, for me, I don't hate Trump.
Well, you
Okay?
voted for him.
I did.
Your community hates him.
The only reason why I voted for him, I went back to his history. And I seen what he did with Tyson. I seen what he did with Don King. I seen what he,
NAACP war.
yeah, I seen his history. It was the only reason why I looked towards the future. But a lot of us men, we're not looking back at that. We're looking at him now. Okay?
Have you
And
had
that's
issues in
that's
the-
the issue that I believe is the reason
Have you had
why.
issues in the community?
Yes, I was the only one on my street with a Trump sign. It was going like the next day. Yeah. I put a Trump sign on my front lawn.
Why would you do something so stupid?
Hey, that's my life. I do. I've done worse. No, I've done worse.
And how did people react to it?
Well, the sign was gone the next morning, and I get funny looks. But like I said, I love all that. Though. It might be attention, but I love it. Like I don't care if you don't talk to me. I'm gonna stay who I am. I'm gonna keep my views, and you just deal with it or just don't talk to me.
I also feel that African Americans don't feel that he works with them as far as their policing. Policing, and but I think we need to, like I said, break those barriers down and look at each other and talk this out and get an understanding of.
And you think Tone's demeanor?
No, I don't think it would
Trump's tone.
I don't think the issue would be tone, but I think that it can start something if we have someone who represents us to speak and not Mr. Scott, the pastor, speaking for all the black community.
What's it like for you?
Okay, I voted for Trump. I still think he is America's oldest toddler, but he has some good ideas. And I think anybody who would get in that position, you're gonna need assistance. No one does that position by themselves. So everybody needs somebody in their ear. You need numbers, you need proof, and he wasn't a politician, you know what I mean? So everybody was happy Obama was in office, and I really didn't see what he did. First term, second, I didn't see anything. So for me, I have people that might come to the bar and they'll be like, oh, you're a Trump fan, you know, and they don't like it. But most of the black people that I know will say, why'd you vote for a white guy? And I was like, are you serious? It was a white lady running. What's the difference? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't get it. But, you know, I have my reasons why, and that's what I did.
I was saying, for me, actually, on my way here, I had to stop. I got a little too big for some of my button-up shirts. And I ran to a friend of mine's wife who actually stopped talking to me because of my political affiliations. And as a person, no matter what we argued, we know each other for years, we'd argue, and I never once, you know, even thought of it. And it was funny. It was kind of painful because I used to babysit his daughter, and she was there with his wife. And now she's all grown. I haven't seen her in probably like 7 years, and it's just, you know, they were like family. But he literally stopped talking to me because of the fact that I'm a Trump supporter and I'm a conservative.
One of my, well, I have, my mom and but we both, she voted for Hillary and I voted for Trump. We buried the hatchet, we made our amends, but I knew a friend who wore, made a Mayor Great Again hat. And he wore it in the wrong neighborhood, and he got beat up, and he had to go to the hospital because he wore that hat. You know, it's like, I mean, one person in Washington is not gonna affect the way I live. You know, not one person in Washington's gonna, only I create my own happiness, you know?
Why vote?
No, I'm just making a point here. The point is, I work for the Board of Elections 2 times a year, and we keep stressing to everybody, vote, register to vote and vote. And if you don't, even Obama said, don't yell or scream, vote. You know, that's what he said, you know?
We've had a conversation for 3 hours, and literally only once when I called on you have you spoken. How can you be so quiet? How can you, with something so important as your country at stake, can you just sit there? I don't understand.
I like to listen to others and not butt in.
Yes, but you know that your purpose here is to offer your point of view. Why did you deny us that?
I didn't mean to deny it. I just like to listen to others people's point of view, and there wasn't a time to jump in.
Okay, the
So I
time's
don't want-
right now.
What do you want to know?
I want you listen to, what's your reaction to them?
I mean, there was a lot of toddler behavior, and then there was also a lot of good points being made, but I was also kind of hearing a lot of contradictions as well. I mean, I don't understand how people who, the majority said that the system's rigged, and like the 1%ers and everything control the country, and it seems like Trump would be on that side. So the people who voted for Trump, why would they believe, you know, the system's rigged and still vote?
Well, he was a Democrat first, before he turned Republican.
Yes, he was.
And the other choice was Hillary, so for God's sake.
I wrote in a candidate.
Yeah.
A lot of, because I didn't like either one.
So, and you,
So let's not talk about that.
Joking about, everybody's laughing about, but yet they still voted for Trump.
Is there anything that stood out to you? Did you agree with like any one person in this room, or did anything sound not normal, or nothing?
I mean, I have to go rewind into each individual.
but you were listening so carefully that I assume that you can answer her question.
Well, the fact that everybody's, there's such polarization and that people are so divided, and I mean, for me, it's like peace and love. Everybody, sisters and brothers come together.
And yet you used the word toddler to describe them.
Well, because everybody was talking above each other. I mean, why argue about something? Why have so much judgment against each other? I mean, the judgment against each other is what's dividing us.
Well, you called us toddlers. That wasn't exactly positive.
I said there was toddler behavior. I didn't call you personally
You
a
voted
toddler.
for a guy you called a toddler.
But he's a famous toddler.
Oh, all right.
And I adore him, okay?
And we knew he was a toddler before he was elected.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
people
where,
voted for him
where
somehow
would you
anyways.
stand on that?
Yeah.
Do you agree that there are problems? Are there
Of
anything
course there's-
specific that has happened to you that you would like to see change?
Of course.
What's your,
Like
what would
what?
you consider your political affiliation?
Well, I probably lean more to the left.
Let it go.
I'm definitely. Hey, I lived in California for
You just
21
want to be
years.
a coach.
You just got to keep doing that.
I lived in lived in California. I traveled the world. At least I got out of Ohio and such like narrow-minded. You know.
I don't
Ohio's-
think Ohio is inherently narrow-minded. I think that's a
We're
false
very
I've lived in Missouri, I've lived in Chicago,
Look at
and
this
everything's
room.
narrow-minded.
Do you think this room is narrow-minded?
No, not everybody.
Not everybody.
No, we're not narrow-minded.
So there's a few that aren't narrow-minded.
What's your
I
percentage?
think that I like to look at things, and I mean, in philosophy classes, I was taught to look at things from both sides. So I try to look at things down the middle and not try to judge everybody and put everybody, you
I think a
know.
lot
I
of
think
people
that the
tell
toddler
that.
comment may have been judgmental, but it's just because everybody was talking above each other, and I have a toddler, so I know what it's like.
Do
So
we
these
sound
kid-
like we represent people who you're
And
around
you
every
even
day?
said that, you know,
So
the
these,
behavior was out of control.
so these people sound like your child.
When they're talking above each other and not listening to each other, yeah. When they're not
How old's your
listening.
child?
He's 4 now.
He's 4.
And I have a 10-year-old. Yeah.
So they sound like your 4-year-old.
If they talk, if they're not listening, yeah. A lot of people were even saying that we're not listening to each other, so.
So I have a question for you. Do you ever swear?
Yes.
I'm already done.
Only when she smokes pot.
But also when you
Only when
smoke
she smokes
weed.
pot.
It's back in 1977.
Cursed like a sailor.
I swear at home a lot.
No fucking way. Do you approve of the way Donald Trump talks?
It isn't, I don't listen to what Donald Trump talks of. I listen to what he does. And what he is doing is what he feels is best for America. I wished we could put aside the Donald Trump and just look at, like, what if I said to you, we can solve our problems together?
He won't let us do that.
Why are you putting it on him? If you and I want to solve our problems.
Everything he does is about him.
Exactly.
No.
But we knew
If
that
you
when
and I
we
have
did
a
it.
difference, how is he gonna stop you and I from working that out?
Right.
So why are you
You're on
blaming
their
somebody
side,
in
they're on their
Washington?
side. So
Because we're both
people
talking
let
about something
him-
he.
No,
If,
no.
okay, let me
It doesn't matter
rephrase.
who
Let me
elected
rephrase.
him. I'm talking
Let me
about
rephrase.
we have to live near each other.
Yeah.
Why can't we get along?
we
Why
don't
can't
have
we?
to.
work
I don't
out
want
our
to talk about that
differences?
stuff with you.
No, you're saying you're trying to work out our differences.
I want to live next door to you and talk about how cool our kids are and how great it is that our kids
So
play
why
together.
can't you do that?
Because, look, I'm not the one bringing it up. That's my point. That's what I've been saying. I don't feel the need to go around and talk to anybody. I don't want to talk to people about politics. Like, there's so much cooler shit going on in this world. Why is that where we keep going back to?
I understand. Right, but why did you say that he won't let us?
Because
You
he's
don't
not
have
acting-
to bring it up.
But what
when
we're
you're talking to your neighbors.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, what she brought up was, we need to stop looking at it as Donald Trump is doing things. Donald Trump is making sure we realize that it's Donald Trump doing things.
No, you're
It's
doing
not.
that.
He's not act. Look at every tweet that he's sent out in the last
cares?
2 years.
I don't read his Twitter.
But
I don't have Twitter.
It's him making it about himself.
He's who cares?
You don't need to have Twitter. They post all
Right.
the tweets
No,
on
that's
the
fine.
news.
No.
I don't care
I-
about that. I mean,
I don't care either.
I'm only
So-
interested in the results
Bad
and
results as
the
far as I'm
leadership
concerned.
that he's taken to get things done.
Is
You know,
it possible that the words that he uses and the tone that he uses and the strategy that he uses is causing things like what happened here today?
No, absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
I think so, yes.
Absolutely.
Who says it's possible? Raise your hands.
I'll put both up. It's not possible.
And yet, you on this side voted for him.
I think people hear him talking and he sounds
He's from New York.
kind
So's
of.
Chris. He's from New
Yes,
York.
and so people are turned off or offended.
Their reaction.
It doesn't, it's
Not
the
him.
One at a
offense in-
time.
Yeah. I just think people get turned off by the way he speaks. He could be, he could articulate things much clearer. I mean, it sound.
I think it's funny, and I think he's
Right,
real.
I think it's fun. That's why I
He's
voted
not
for
like
him.
the fake, like Clinton with the little thumb thing, like we're gonna do
He's
this and
not
that. And
poised
it's all
in that-
fake.
in
Like
that
he's
language.
like telling whatever is on his
Exactly.
mind, he's gonna speak it.
That's-
And
it's
so
part of his
you know him
DNA.
better that
That's
way.
who he
I
was.
realize,
That's how he is.
I realize that this is how they speak in construction.
He's not a politician.
Do you have
but
kids?
Yeah.
Do you want your kids to talk the way he does?
No, I mean he's become more presidential. His tweets are
It's
still
a
out
learning
there.
curve.
But I look at his policy. I think that's what she was trying to say. His policy over his behavior.
Correct.
As long as he's still steering us the right way, we're okay with
Exactly.
it. You know?
He is responsible for the corrosion of our discourse. I mean, he sets an example.
But you
as
voted for him.
president. I did, but you know what? I also did totally dislike him, and I would not vote for him again.
All
So
right.
if he had an
I-
You were voting over Hillary.
I
choice
hated Hillary.
between- Yeah.
I think that he just is responsible as an example, and the example he sets is that you could say anything to anybody without any, ramifications, and it's really sad.
So, I'm sorry, all these people were saying Trump is so crude and Trump is so bad. John Kennedy had truckloads of women.
It's a bunch of crap. You
No,
know,
he
he
didn't
didn't
talk
talk
like
like
that
that either. He didn't talk about grabbing women by their feet or anything else.
Whoa.
Jesus Christ. And what is Stormy Daniels? And how many times does he have to be divorced?
So are you gonna
How many
deny-
porn stars? Look what Clinton did.
Are you going to deny that Clinton had
Why are you saying
You're saying
Robin
that
is
it's
denying
okay
it,
for
and he
what
got
someone
caught.
else did.
Robin,
When the leader of the free world speaks like a buffoon and a bully, it trickles down to the rest of the country. And it's more decisive than it's more divisive than ever.
Oh, he's so much worse than any prior politician, you have to admit
Yes.
that.
Jackson was worse.
Trafficking baby.
Jackson!
Because he was worse than Trump.
But I mean, that's in the 1800s.
Bill Clinton was having sex in the
He wasn't
Yeah,
not
Bill
a
Clinton disgraced the office. Period. In the whole
one at a
office.
time,
Yeah, that's
one at a time.
He wasn't talking.
And he was married.
I voted for
Oh,
Trump.
so it's Trump. It's a shame.
I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with the way he says a lot of things. But I'll tell you what, his actions speak louder than his words. I really believe he is trying to make America great again. He had no other purpose. He didn't have to run for president. He had money. And all these other politicians that just talk, they're eloquent and they sound beautiful and everything's great. But what are they doing? They don't do anything for us. I'll take Trump over
What has
any
he
other
done
type
for
of
us?
politician like that
Can I just say,
any
one of
day.
the things that really
That's
got
exactly
me
right.
about him, and I wasn't a fan of his, you should know who you're governing. If you don't know that you are the head of the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, there's something wrong with that. You shouldn't even be there.
I agree.
But
And
he's
if
not
you
a
don't know that there's only
politician.
50
It
states.
doesn't matter.
that
If I'm not, if I'm
He
not a
is
doctor
now.
and I go to operate, I better
Now,
know
Obama-
something about that.
Obama didn't know how to pronounce
Period.
Corman.
But that's not the same thing. You're talking about
He didn't even know how many
enunciation. I'm saying you don't know what your job is.
Yeah, but they all have
I'm not
mistakes.
nitpicking.
They all make
I
mistakes.
can go on and on, but I won't, because this is gonna turn into one of those
So if
roasts
he
that we don't want.
denuclearizes
Okay,
Korea,
somebody
that
else
won't
have
be
another
good
question.
enough?
Go ahead. I'm
Say that again?
If he denuclearizes Korea,
He
that
doesn't.
won't be good enough?
He won't get credit for it.
It's not an accomplishment.
It's not, that, first off, that's not gonna happen.
Administration will give.
Go ahead.
That'll be something good, but it won't change.
Go ahead.
my opinion
Of course,
of
anything he does, what you
He's
want
doing
to
things
say.
no president has ever accomplished in 50 years.
Go ahead. Stop. Everyone stop. Go ahead.
Who in here really thinks that Trump cares about you or the common person?
I can't, he cared enough about
I don't care if he doesn't care about me.
I don't care.
Who thinks that he's compassionate about
He's
people
not
that
gonna control my
have less
life.
or lesser than him?
He's not gonna control my life. Not one person's gonna control my life.
Yeah, it's not like personal.
Everybody talks about what he's done, you know, and all the policies he's made. Number one, he started a trade war with China
They walked on it.
and he's building a wall across Mexico
Which was
where
signed into law in
Mexicans aren't
2006.
coming in
Well,
here
but-
anymore, where
Not-
they're at the
not like
lowest
that.
rate of coming into this country since the 70s.
He expanded the
And-
war in Afghanistan.
And he's spending billions of dollars on a wall that nobody needs. As a matter of
Let's
fact,
let
I
the
think
whole world move here then.
Oh, 8 billion! Come on, that's what this country was based on. That's what this country was based on.
Yeah, but it's not like that anymore.
Guess what? Most people come into this country by flying in on a plane and staying here than they do crossing the Mexican border. So we're gonna stop planes from coming in the country now too?
Before I introduce the host of this, my question to you is, again, for the last time, I thought that this would be different because there is a similarity in your background. Maybe not by race, maybe not by politics, but you are the people who, for most of you, are economically challenged is a good way to put it, at least at some point. And I had assumed that that would trump, pardon the expression, political differences. And what you've taught me is that not only is that not the case, but instead of seeking to unite around economic challenges, you're actually going out of your way to divide. Why?
Because it's philosophy. It's not about economics.
Right.
Everybody's different
It's
ideas.
about what you believe and how deeply you hold those beliefs.
What direction
I'm not
you believe
moving
the
off my
United States is
positions.
going
I also
to.
think it's a conditioning. I mean, we've seen it, and I just made the comment that you can tell just by the comments and the talking points on who listens to certain news media, and it's just it's just a conditioning, and you hear what you want to hear, and the media reports what they want to be in the mainstream, and unless you take the time and make the effort to find out what the truth is, what the correct interpretation, the facts are, then you're going to go into what we're in now, where you can't even make a statement and not have 15 people jump in with 15 different opinions.
It's about your moral base, and I think that's what it is. But for me, anyway, I have a moral base that I live, and a code that I live by, and it ain't changing.
Are you saying that they're not moral?
I'm not saying that.
No, just
I'm
different.
saying it's about my moral base.
just
All
But
right?
they have a
They
moral
have their
compass,
own.
too.
They have their own moral base.
could be
Their own
different.
moral compass is different. Okay, because it is not mine. All right, and I live it, and I ain't moving. That's all.
Yes, I do have a moral base, very deep, but mine is affected by other things involving equality, racism, and things of that nature, so not
Well,
the
that's
typical
all part of
moral
my
base that
moral
you would.
base too. You just
Moral
don't see
bases
things
are
the
di-
same way I do. That's all.
Well, thank God for that, but,
Okay.
see, I don't think it's a bad
giving
thing
the
that we
answer.
disagree. I don't
I
think
do
this is a
thank
bad
God
thing
for that.
necessarily.
It's a
I
bad
think that
fact.
I think that this is, I mean, there's been differences throughout our country's history. I mean, if it comes to a fist fight or something like that, then we could say this was wrong, but I don't think it's an altogether bad thing to have. And we haven't even debated policy today. I mean, that would be another place where we could really draw the lines. So I don't think it's necessarily bad.
Thank God we didn't fight which type of cereal you like in the morning.
By the way, he's sitting in the front row, and you've been making faces at the people behind you constantly. Is that appropriate? Do you have children?
No, I'm just the youngest of 5, and I take care of my mom. I'm a caregiver.
Is that the way to behave? Just to make faces
Well-
and to be harumphing? I guess the only other word for it, because I could hear what you were saying.
I don't know if I was saying, I don't know. I was making faces, I didn't even know. It was probably a
It's
subconscious
things that
thing.
you didn't agree on and agreed about.
Yeah, I didn't see it in myself, like I said, I'm an imperfect person in an imperfect world.
So this is holding up a mirror to the country. That's what these have been. You're the third one that we've done. And they've all ended up this way. This is the only one that wasn't planned to be this way. This is the only one that I would argue that I went out of my way not to make it this way. And I'm stumped. And I'm going to introduce to you the gentleman who's responsible for you all being here, Andrew Shue. And a few of you will recognize him from his previous life. But right now, his effort is to find a way to unify. But I will let him explain it to you. Andrew? Thank you to Frank. Frank is the best in the business at this, but he also has the biggest heart in America. He, like myself, loves this country and is really, really, really worried about where we are. It was just fascinating to sit over there and to listen and hear you all and know how much you all care. And the reason we're doing this is because we all have our lives. We're so ingrained in our lives, and we're thinking about our own hopes and dreams. And sometimes we forget about the larger context that we're all living in. And it is that larger context that really matters when you think about where we're headed for our kids and our grandkids. So you can get all wound up in your own world, but if you think about what America means to our kids and our grandkids and to the world, it's a big, big deal. And so if we had this microcosm right here of all of us coming apart at the seams, I forget who said it, but we're up there on that precipice right now, and we're right on the edge. We really, really are. If we look at this, I was trying to boil down why there was so much anger and frustration and passion going on in 2016, and why there was literally a revolt happening on the right and a revolt happening on the left. There was a Bernie revolt and there was a Trump revolt. And a lot of it was coming from folks like all of you. For 40 years, the bottom 90% of America, it was 300 million people, have only seen their incomes rise by 15%. So in Ohio, per capita, the average income would be $30,000. So in 40 years, it went from 26,000 to 30,000. Now, we were saying before, like, maybe money's not everything. But when you feel like you're working your butt off, and you're working 2 jobs and 3 jobs, and you're trying to get ahead for your kids, and you feel like you don't have the education or you're not prepared to be able to get to that next level, you're going to be really frustrated. And you're going to be ready to elect Trump because he's saying, literally, there's nothing against Trump. He was actually responding to the outrage. He was saying, something's got to happen. We got to throw all the pieces up in the air. And you can see others were doing better. This can't be. This can't be. And the next chart actually is amazing too. There's the two. Just this next one, and I won't be just showing you charts. So, this right here is amazing. In 1973, the compensation and the productivity were completely in alignment. And right there, it started to split.
Technology.
And you start to see that the productivity is still going, but the wages flatline. So we're creating a lot, we're doing a lot, but people aren't getting credit for it because we're not prepared for those jobs, or because some people are taking a little bit more, because we're a capitalist, open market, competitive society, which is good. But there's also some bad things that come along with that, and that's that people who succeed take a little bit more for them. And because they can. Because folks like you have no
choice. You kind of have to go along because you just want to.
Cost of living too.
Yeah.
Cost of living is going up dramatically.
Yeah.
But I never got a job from a poor person.
Yeah. Well, and think about how education costs are all going up.
Sure.
So I'm here. I'm a regular person like you.
We haven't done this. Can I join you?
Sure.
Because you know ABC News.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he raises this point. Can we get at the root cause? Is there a root cause for this? And it's no longer the division. It's this here, because I would argue that it's education, which is limiting your hopes and limiting. I would argue that it's education, which is limiting your hopes and limiting your capabilities. That our schools are not functioning as well as they could, and that's part of the problem. And we have elected officials who know this and still do nothing. How would you grade the Cleveland Public Schools? Not the suburbs. Okay, do not expect laughter. How many of you would grade it an F, the public schools? You live in this community.
Oh, it's horrible.
How do you let that happen?
Most of these people don't live in this community.
No.
Exactly.
But you live in the Cleveland area.
I attended Cleveland Public Schools. I went on to college, but I was at a deficit when I went to college. I had to take 099 and 100 to get to the college level English. But I feel like I had some of the best teachers, like really with good hearts, and they cared about the kids. I mean, they really did.
Do they produce kids that could go from job to job? Did they produce kids
They
with the
tried
skills?
to.
I'm not asking effort.
No, but
I'm
you gotta
asking about
understand
results.
what happens in these classrooms. The kids open their books and cockroaches fall out. I mean, they erupt into fights. It's an aggressive, gritty thing. Like if this was a classroom, there already been 3 fights by now, and then you can't learn in that environment.
Teach in that environment. I taught in
Yeah.
Cleveland.
The resources are there. The books, they updated some of the schools. Some of the schools I went to had asbestos and the ceilings were falling down, but they built all, some new schools, thank
These
God.
are your
but-
children, or
Right.
in your case, it's you.
It's a breakdown of
But it-
society.
yeah,
And
it's
the
how- it's how
parents
it's
aren't
founded.
It
home.
starts at home.
They're out working to earn a living, and it's that vicious cycle. They don't have time for their own kids. Television isn't helping.
There's 2 things that caused the Cleveland school system to collapse. The first one was when they began busing. They took millions and millions of dollars and dumped it into shipping kids from one side of town to the other. That should have been going into the schools and the books, the education, the sports programs, teachers' pay, et cetera, okay?
From one judge's ruling, it cost the city.
That was the huge turning point. I saw, and I like you said, there was a huge turning point right there, and that was, I mean, you pull millions of dollars out of the school system. Well, when that happened, people started leaving the school system, okay? Tax dollars dropped out of that school system because people moved out of Cleveland into suburbs to ship their
Took
kids
their money
to
with
better
them.
schools.
Yep.
And then it just went downhill from there.
Well, my mom put all 4 of us in private schools, and
How could she afford that?
we didn't see her. She says now she wished that she had maybe not gotten divorced, and so she could spend some time with us, but I do remember getting up in the morning and she wasn't there, and then going to bed at night and she wasn't there. But she would make random stops to the school, to our private school, and she would look at our textbooks. She actually made us like go to the library and get like 10 books a week. We had to like do reports for each other. I mean, she made us do the schooling. She didn't depend on some other person to teach her kids
Starts at home.
what they know so they can get out and work and do anything.
She's still alive?
Yes, she's an electrical engineer. My granddad was,
Yes.
and my granddad was like very hard on them about education. But only out of 7 kids, only 2 of them finished high school and went to college.
So that work ethic is something.
We only had 2 hours of TV a week. Like that was not an option. I did all kind of sports and activities. She wasn't there, but like she would phone in everywhere. They're supposed to be here. Are they there? We didn't see her, but like we could show up somewhere and we know she'd been there.
So why, this is gonna sound strange, but you're blessed to have that commitment. She wasn't blessed because of how much sacrifice, but the fact that she was committed to you. But that isn't happening.
No.
All over this city and all over this country, this isn't happening.
I will tell you this, so we were all in Catholic school, and the nuns always told my mother, you're one of the 5 parents that show up for parent-teacher conference. And my mother always showed up, and then she didn't drive. She would take a cab and a bus, to our school just to peer in the windows and see what we're doing. Like, she would hide in the coat closet, get there before we did. She would. And then she would come out like, hey, you don't do that. Random. So, like, we were too scared to do anything because we were like, Mommy could be over there, you know? But she was there. And then we did field trips.
And
She
how
would
does-
try to make it.
How does it make you feel that you have so many parents who do nothing for their kids? Who
She
are
was-
disengaged?
I think it's sad now. She got really a lot of slack. We grew up in the projects, and they were like, "You think your kids are white kids?" And my mom was like, "They can't read. Where are they gonna work?" I mean, we didn't. She didn't let us play outside, so you know, my activities were all the way out in the suburbs.
Anyone speak
Yeah,
quick?
the other problem was, at the same time, a lack of discipline in the school system also started up. My parents went to the Cleveland, graduated from the Cleveland school system back before all this stuff happened, and every high school took pride in their high school. I mean, everybody was like, you know, they went here, that was their place, you know? When discipline started falling, same time when busing started, you look at that graph right there, okay? That's also right around when you started getting a lot more families that became single-parent families, okay? So now the kid's coming home, nobody's there to watch them because a parent has to choose to either work or be there for their kid.
You just heard the story of
Yeah.
her mother still
Yes.
being involved.
That's an anomaly.
But
We got child support and welfare. Women don't need men
what-
anymore.
what
They're on their
she-
own.
what she
They don't
got-
care.
What she got a chance to experience, she was very fortunate. There's a lot of kids that did not get that privilege.
I don't think she'll agree with what John just, you don't agree with him, do you?
No, he said child support and welfare you don't need, man. I said, that's not true.
I mean, that's women don't need men.
Yeah,
too,
that's
those
what I'm
laws.
saying.
He's
That-
right.
that's not
He's pointing to something in the decade in our society where things kept changing.
Are the political people in this state and in this country, do they understand this problem?
No. Mayor Jackson.
By a show of hands, how many of you believe they, at a minimum, how many of you believe they understand it? One. That's pathetic.
Plus, Cleveland's the second poorest nation, like city in the nation, next to Detroit. You can't forget that.
How are you voting for people who do not understand this problem?
They don't.
Oh, question, I did not vote for Mayor Jackson.
Because the people that run are people that aren't involved in our society at the ground level very often.
Let me give you an example.
No, you talked enough.
He's making great.
In this
I have
area,
a good point.
No, he said no.
in this area, if you're not chosen by the Democratic Party, you're not going to win public
You're not
office.
recruited.
So
Yeah,
period.
it's all
So it doesn't
recruitment, too.
matter if you have the. If this man could have the most brilliant idea that would fix everything, and if he had an R after his name, they would not vote for him. Period.
They recruit.
And when you get into the area of education, especially into that 1970, early 70s area, is, I think, when a lot of the unions kind of got a hold of the curriculum and what's being taught, okay, to your kids, and things
You
changed.
just did it again. I just want to point out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because we discussed this before and he wasn't sure.
I'm
I
sorry.
just heard you do it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You make faces and you make comments and it's not cool.
I'm sorry. It's.
A habit.
Yeah,
You need to see somebody.
We don't teach American history anymore. We don't teach the founding fathers anymore. Why do you think people don't understand the Constitution? It's because we don't teach it anymore.
So I have to ask you, we know where you stand on Trump. But fixing the Cleveland schools is not about Donald Trump.
No.
Why are you not outraged?
I am. I'm the only one who said that they understand it. So I'm really pissed that they understand it and it hasn't been fixed. So, but the Cleveland problem is really an amalgamation of 6 or 7 problems: loss of industry, loss of population, things like this. So it's been a 5-decade process.
So can politics resolve this?
So this just explains a little bit of how people are pissed, but it doesn't explain what we're going to do. And I think that we are, Frank is a Republican. Are you?
Barely.
I was a Democrat, and I've seen the polarization intensely over the last 30 years, and I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I don't care who gets elected in 2020. Nothing's going to change.
Exactly.
Nothing is going to change.
Right. Look at all.
You can go down every major category of our vitals in this country, from education to our debt situation, to our healthcare situation, to crime, to the environment. Every single major category, if you take the top 25 industrialized nations, we finished not 5th or 10th or 15th or 20th. Last. We're talking about the greatest nation in America. Sorry. We're talking about the greatest nation in the world, the nation that the whole world depends on, and we are going to hell in a handbasket. So, I'm going to put up this hand right here, and you're going to look at these fingers, and we need a solution. We need a movement, a revolution, or a plan. A plan. We need somebody, some group to do something. Elected officials? Is it going to be that group?
Nah. They had enough chances.
Is it going to be? Is it going to be the business folks, the CEOs?
No. They're too
Money
greedy.
people?
Yeah, not gonna
Is
cut
it going to
those.
be academia?
No.
PhDs?
Actually, I think education's a huge thing because you start at the ground level.
It's a
Well,
big business too.
They could actually probably provide facts, which we could use.
Sure.
When we get down to the last group, who's the last group?
Us.
Us. So, we heard about hope. Do you have hope in yourselves, in us? Us. Is there an us?
Yes.
Yes. There is an us. There's not just an us and them. Now, I saw multiple times here tonight where you just put the uniform right back on, and it was like, I got my talking points, and we talked a lot about that this is national therapy, that we're doing therapy. We're going to go across the country and do
I'm
therapy.
going to be therapy by the time this is done.
And the truth is, when you start, when you're willing to actually listen and go, you know what, they make a good point, and you're willing to acknowledge that some of the stuff that you're saying is just out of your own insecurity and your desire to be on a team and to say, like, this is what I believe and you're wrong. There's always got to be. When you go into marriage therapy, I got divorced, sadly. You have to.
Do you know why it was so expensive? Because it was worth it.
You have to be willing to stop looking at the other person and blaming the other person and look at yourself. So us, have to look at ourselves and say, we are the answer. So, how are we going to get on the same page? I believe that revolt on the left and that revolt on the right are the same revolt.
Yes.
It's against the establishment. It is against the system that is set up to keep the duopoly of the two parties in power and to keep individuals in power, the way money works. And we get it. We actually do get it.
Yes.
But now the question is, what are we going to do? There's only one answer. It's to get on the same page with a mission to create a revolt together that has a blended ideology, the best of both sides, and you don't have to just be on this side. There's so many great things from the conservative side. There are personal responsibility.
There are a lot
and
of things
hard
that even
work.
though people are on different sides that they can agree
There
on.
are. Being fiscally conservative is important. Ross Perot in 1992 he got 20% of the vote because he was railing on the deficit and the debt. You know what our debt was in 1992? $4 trillion. You know what it is now? 21.
Yeah.
21. In a few years, the interest on the debt will be the same as our defense budget, about $800 billion. So we're at a place right now if we create a blended ideology, that's kind of the how and the who. You bring the how and the who together. You bring freedom and equality together, and you say we're in a moment where it's an all hands on deck moment. We cannot have one weak link. We can't have 1 million ninth graders who don't graduate from high school. That's 1 million kids who are going to become a weak link. So if we have a vision for the next 20 years, the next 25 years, that we create, we start laying out what's most important to us. Is immigration going to be important? We're going to solve it. Is education going to be crucial? We're going to solve it. Is getting prepared for the new economy and the new tech world crucial? You bet. We can do it. And I'll tell you right now, the other groups, they were just like you. They were at each other and they were frustrated and they didn't know, quite frankly, what to do. Well, I do believe in us, and I do believe that this is our moment. This is our moment. Donald Trump is just the example of what's happening that we're all so frustrated. So let's stop worrying about him. He's doing the best in his own way. I'm not even going to judge. The same problems are going to be here 2 years from now. So we're going to start working on it right now, and I want to ask all of you, and this is a big, big deal. We're only going to have maybe 200 of you that we will have talked to and gone through this intense process with. I'm asking you for yourselves, for our country, literally for the world. Will you show up? Will you take part in a coming together so there's just an us with our plan, the people's plan, the people's agenda, the people's ideology, a governing philosophy that we can take to the politicians?
Do we get to read it first?
We will create it.
I don't want
We
to
will
agree
create
to getting on board with what you come
You
up
will
with if I don't agree with it.
You're going to be there. You're absolutely going to get to read it because you're going to be there creating it.
I'm in.
Sure.
Who's in?
Sure.
Who's in? Who wants to? That's awesome. And we're going to call on you, and we are going to be asking you more questions for your opinions and your feelings and common sense. And we're going to bring facts, so we're not working on. Believe me, it's hard to have all the facts on all these different issues. It's true, but you guys are smart. You're engaged. You care. It's beautiful, actually.
Good comes easy.
Yeah.
I'm
So
asking you to do something we've never done before. This is Jeremy Peters from the New York Times. Ask your question.
How many of you actually want to fix the problem where the political divide is not so severe, you're not fighting with each other? Do you really mean it?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It ain't
Bad.
getting fixed, it ain't getting fixed.
Who doesn't want to fix it? Why not?
I don't want us to get along on everything, but I mean, you know, the basic stuff like, you know, you want your kids to be safe and educated. You want to be able to drive down the street without, you know, hitting 800 chuck holes. You want safe bridges and, you know, good schools and, you know, stuff like that. You want better pay at your job, you know, better health care. You know, that's something that both a Democrat and a Republican agree on. We're not going to agree on everything, but you can set a foundation that everybody can agree on, just the basics, you know, and work on that stuff.
And so why don't you want to fix it?
Well, in the final analysis, I blame conservatives for a lot of the problems. So I don't see how we could come together if they're the ones who've caused so much of the problems to begin with. And maybe I'm being tongue in cheek. I don't know, but
What Sheila said
Founded on
about
the
her
Bible.
neighbor